This is Millicent St. Clair, and as one of Learning Strategies photo reading instructors, I'd like to share with you a few tips that can really help you supercharge your results inside of the activation stage. Now, I think of reading as a conversation with the author. I'm reading, they're writing, and they're actually speaking into my listening. Have you ever had that privilege of reading an author's writing and they're actually speaking to you? You can hear the author talking to you. That's what we call APQ. That means becoming active, purposeful, and questioning in the conversation with the author. So if we use that simple framework, which we call the 4 powers of greatness, reading, they're writing, and they're speaking into our listening, it becomes a dynamic conversation where it's an exchange of ideals. You're active and you have the opportunity to ask questions of the author. That's what activation's about. Einstein said the important thing is to not stop asking questions. Yes, even of an author. That's your duty. We must question everything that we read, and it's a very powerful and simple thing to do. So remember, reading is a conversation with the author, and we want to be active in that conversation by really tuning up our listening. Now, let's do a simple little brain gym exercise. This is called thinking caps, right? We're going to take our fingers here, and we're going to massage our ears. So let's start at the top, okay, just like this. And we're going to give ourselves a nice little ear massage. And we can do this at the beginning of the activation phase, all right? Start again at the top. Give yourselves a nice little ear massage. Come on down. All right, one more time. Wonderful. Now, according to Chinese acupuncture, the ears have many thousands, maybe 22,000 or so nerve endings inside of the ears. And when we massage them in this simple exercise, it stimulates those nerve endings and it sends energy and electromagnetic energy and oxygen to the brain, and it really tunes us up for activation. It also helps us to be present in our listening in the conversation with the author. Now, activation means to become active with.
Oh, really?
In other words, most of us are passive in the reading process, which is why we can read a book and either we go to sleep or you start reading, you get down to the end of the paragraph and you say, what did I just read? And you have to start over again. It's the human experience. Because we're not in the right state, we're not purposeful, we're not active in the learning process. So we teach how to be active, purposeful, and questioning. APQ. And that's what activation is all about. Now, there's different types of activation techniques or strategies, learning strategies that we teach. The first one's called super reading and dipping. Super reading and dipping, by the way, you would just simply take your fingers down the page just like this. And based on the purpose that you established over in step 1 when you prepared, all right, super reading, all right, and you dip when you find something that catches your eye, that attracts you. See, because the other than conscious mind will know what that is based on the purpose that you established. So see something, it'll say, oh, that's interesting, check it out. Dip a little bit, couple sentences, and then you move on. Keep on super reading. You dip when you find something that attracts you, and so forth and so on. So this is a very powerful and efficient way of reading and processing information than our traditional model of doing it. So now you don't have to give up regular reading with the photo reading whole mind system. They're just more powerful strategies of processing at a higher and more efficient level, which improves memory and comprehension. And after all, you want memory and improved comprehension? Everybody does.
What's the next step, Millicent? Once I've done some activation, how do I know I got the information in my head?
Well, this is a part of the activation is extracting or bringing into conscious awareness the things that you have already photo read. So that is activation. It bring it to the fore and then talking about it and using it. Articulating what it is that you photo read.
Okay. Is there a method that you showed? You showed the mind mapping method, and that's really what I want people to really see, because that is where the rubber meets the proverbial road.
That's cool. Because when one of the activation techniques is called mind mapping. We'll do some super reading and dipping and or skittering, which is another technique, and then we'll create a little mind map. So this is a group mind map that we did around one of the articles. And so basically, we use color, we use keywords, sometimes we use symbols, and we have fun. It's an organic, non-linear, natural way of taking notes that it's much more efficient and brain-friendly than traditional black and white linear notes, and that's the whole point of it.
Is that more like our brain really works that way, doesn't it?
Our brains do work that way. Our brains do not work line by line, word by word, and in black and white. Our brains think in pictures, they're organic, they're radiant. Tony Buzan, who developed the mind mapping program, calls it radiant thinking. So the brain is always reaching out and making connections. If you look at brain cells it's all about stretching and expanding them and making new neural connections and associations.
Well, hey everybody, this is Jackson Mummy, for those of you that don't know me. And for the past 25 years, I've been successfully preparing students to take and pass their bar exams in California, Florida, Georgia, Texas, New York, New Jersey, around the country with the multi-state exam and the uniform bar exam. You can find out more information about me and about Celebration Bar Review at our website at celebrationbarreview.com. But I'm with you today in this Facebook Live video and on our podcast to talk about something that's really exciting, and that is a piece of technology called photo reading. We're going to talk today about photo reading and the bar exam. And I invite you, if you're part of our Facebook Live presentation, bring your questions, bring your comments. Be glad to try and respond to those. If you're listening on the podcast or watching the video later, be sure to type in your questions, send them to me, and I'll be glad to respond to you after, and we'll insert those into the presentation. I'm glad to have so many of you with us today and excited to have you with us. We're going to talk about photo reading, what it is, how it works, why you should consider it for the bar exam, why I think it's so important, why it's a great tool. We're also going to spend a little bit of time at the end talking about something called paraliminals. It's kind of a weird word, but it's a very well-proven technology that is an enhancement to photo reading, something that I really like and encourage you to check out. And we're going to talk about how the paraliminals work together with photo reading to give you the best bar results possible. So stick with us and we'll talk about all of that. Well, what is photo reading? I mean, what the heck? Photo reading, that sounds kind of weird. Is it speed reading? Is it a photographic memory? And the answer to both of those questions would be no, it's not. This is not speed reading. This is not the, was it Evelyn Wood or one of those, maybe she was the typist person. But anyway, speed reading is where you're literally trying to move your eye down the page faster, and it really is difficult. What we're going to be talking about is something that's actually pretty easy. And, I love the comment against my better judgment, the photo reading thing works. Yes, it does. And we're going to explain a little bit why here in a minute. But I always love it when there's an actual student who's used it who can say, yeah, it really works if you give it a chance. So great to have you with us, Christine. In any event, so photo reading is not speed reading. Is photo reading a photographic memory? No. It's a weird naming of the product because it sort of implies both of those things, but it is not. Here's what photo reading actually is. Photo reading is what's called a whole mind reading system. It's a program that's designed to take advantage of the skills that you already have as a reader and as a learner, and to bring those, the power of your whole brain, not just your conscious brain, we'll talk about the distinction here in a moment, but it's the ability to take the power of your non-conscious brain and really put it to work for you, and it is like supercharging everything that you've done. It's not something just for the bar exam. You could use it in virtually any setting, and in fact most photo readers tend to find themselves over time using it at work for pleasure reading, for reading online, for all sorts of things, and it's amazingly effective. It's not a gimmick. It's not crazy. It's not weird science. In fact, photo reading started in 1985. It was created by a man by the name of Paul Sheely, who has his PhD in neuro-linguistic programming and human psychology. Paul Sheely is one of the founders of a company called Learning Strategies. They're based in Minnesota. And in 1985, Paul was doing work on how people were learning and how they were studying, and he was approached by American Express, IDS, Express as a consultant, and they said, look, we're having a problem with our employees reading too slowly and comprehending too little. What do you think you could do that might resolve that problem? And Paul had been working on his own as both a speed reader and trying to just improve his own reading skills, and continued to bounce up against the thing that I think many of you find, and that is that reading goes slowly, it's painful, the comprehension seems to be low, and I'll talk about some numbers, some actual statistics about reading speed and comprehension in a moment. But for most people, it's really bad numbers both ways. They read slowly and they don't remember very much of it. And so it tends to make even the people that like to read become really gun-shy about reading. Well, Paul started working on the basis of some studies that he had read and worked with about how people process information in their non-conscious brains, which is considerably stronger by a factor of hundreds than our conscious brain, and how we could employ what we already had without having to make this incredibly complicated and difficult. So as I said, in 1985, so we're now talking 30 years ago, he started teaching the first iteration of photo reading to these employees at American Express. And lo and behold, it worked. It worked really well. And photo reading took off, and Paul and his partners put together the photo reading course, the one that we employ in the bar review today, and they shortened it down from, hundreds of hours and pages of work to essentially a 5 to 7 hour training program, which is really totally amazing and completely effective, as many of our students can attest to, and I've been through myself. In any event, what they discovered was that there was a different way to read material in which you could retain the information. And isn't that the point of reading, is to be able to remember information? And on the bar exam, that's absolutely the case. If you're reading to be able to understand concepts and to be able to answer questions, that's very different kind of reading. And it's important that you get the material right and that you understand what the information is. The problem is that from the earliest days of our schooling, most of us were taught a very different way of reading. We were taught this sort of one word at a time conscious reading style. And the reality is it's not very effective. So when you move away from that style to something that takes in the whole page at a time and puts it in your non-conscious brain and then gives you a methodology to retrieve that information, wow, it's powerful. It's amazingly powerful. In essence, what's going to happen when you become a photo reader is that you're going to use your imagination and your intuition. Let me say that again. You're going to use your imagination and your intuition. And by using those two built-in innate skills and qualities that we all have, you're going to have a fuller, more complete picture of the material you've read. But here's the great benefit. You're going to be able to read in a fraction, and I mean a fraction of a time that it used to take you, and with higher comprehension. Now, one of the cool things to me about photo reading is that photo reading is something that's already available to you innately. In other words, we're going to give you a course, but it is a set of skills that you already have already in you. It is not something that you pour into. In other words, we don't have to take the reading and pour it into you and teach you something, but in fact, we're going to teach you how to use skills that you're equipped with from birth. And that's pretty amazing when you think about it. If this is something that you used from birth, well, it's just a matter of learning how to flex that muscle to make better use of it. And I think that that's important. One of the ways that I like to think about it, and Paul uses this analogy, he says the brain, our human brains, are not empty buckets, but they're searchlights. Now, I think what he means by that is that when we do traditional reading, word for word, line for line, with your highlighter and underlining and taking notes, you're essentially acting like your brain is empty and you have to pour stuff into it. It's this empty bucket and you've got to fill it up, and when you get it filled up enough, you hope it doesn't slosh out and you lose it, and then you carry it over from the well, if you will, and you try and pour it onto the test, right? Isn't that what most people do? But his approach says, wait a minute, treat your brain like a searchlight, like the information is already there and all you have to do is move the light to find the information that you need at the time you need it, at the place that you need it. Now, fundamentally, if you can get that change in the paradigm, you already begin to understand what photo reading can do for you. Forget about the mechanics of how it's done, but just conceptually, recognize that if you're not trying to fill up your brain with new information, but literally taking what you know and searching for that information, you're going to be extremely effective in the reading and the work that you do. Now here's some interesting numbers that come from a wide variety of studies. The average American reader today, finished with high school and into college, reads at a speed of 220 words per minute with 65% or lower comprehension. That's on average. Some people a little faster, some slower, but 220 words a minute, 65% comprehension. Now you might say, well, I mean, I can live with that, it's okay. But here was an interesting study. There were two groups of professional people that scored way below those numbers. Care to take a guess? Yeah, lawyers were one of them and doctors were the other. In fact, lawyers and doctors actually read less than 50% of that speed, so more like 110 words per minute, and their comprehension was lower than 65%. Why? Well, because you're sifting for all these details, you're working all this detailed reading. So one of the primary groups of people that embraced and went to photo reading early on were lawyers and doctors, because 220 words a minute isn't fast enough for all the work you've got to do, and certainly 110 words a minute with 65% comprehension isn't going to do it. Now I'm going to make a fairly remarkable claim to you, but with photo reading you will be able to read, you ready, 68,000 words per minute. 68,000 words per minute with 74% comprehension. That's the average across the board. 68,000 words per minute, 74% comprehension. I mean, really, folks, why would you choose? I mean, you choose. Even if you're great, 220 words a minute and 64% versus 68,000 words a minute and 74%? Are you kidding me? Pretty interesting, isn't it? Photo reading represents a bold step, though not a new one, but a bold step in what we would describe as a provocative new direction in learning and education. And the reason I say that it's provocative is because most of what happens in legal education, and certainly in the bar exam, is tried and true. You've heard many of you have heard me say that people study as though they're taking Abraham Lincoln's bar exam. They study the same way. I mean, they might as well be studying by the old fire crackling in the hearth. They read slowly, they try to memorize, they try to recite information. It is a very, very unproductive way of working, and the national statistics bear that out. But the reality is that the way we now know how to read and learn and understand changes all of those numbers dramatically, and photo readers do exceedingly well because they're able to process much more information and to make better use of it. And so it's not, some people say, well, is it revolutionary? No, I would say it's evolutionary. It's the next step in the way you read and comprehend and focus and use what you've learned. And so everything that you've learned up to this point is a stepping stone to be able to photo read. If you know how to read, you know how to photo read. Sometimes people say, well, I'm not an English speaker. That's not my first language. That's fine. Photo reading, it will work for you just as well. In fact, in many cases, I've seen it work better for foreign trained attorneys because we get past all the conscious effort to translate words, which is kind of an interesting reality. But the reason that photo reading works, and I have taught photo reading in the bar exam for, I think, 8 or 9 years now, but become more and more convinced with every passing bar exam. As I see the overall numbers across the country go down, I become more and more convinced that photo reading is the key to being successful. And the reason it works is because it takes advantage of what you already have within you. It takes advantage of what you've already got within you. It's not something we have to put into you, but it's what you already have within you. And there are two resources that I want to point out to you that you already have. The first is your non-conscious mind. Your non-conscious mind. Now, in school, the way that we learned, typically, whether it was law school or preschool, but essentially the same was this. It was what's called reflective consciousness. And reflective consciousness really could be categorized this way. You read, you remember, you regurgitate. I mean, really? But that's what it is, wasn't it? I mean, isn't that what you did in grammar school and in middle school and high school and college and law school? You read, you remember, you regurgitate. We call that reflective consciousness. And that is the normal American style of teaching in most places. But what's really painful about that is that those of you that have children, or in my case, grandchildren, watch how children learn, particularly young children. What they actually do is the opposite of that. They actually learn with all of their senses. They have this very wide funnel, and they take all this information and then work through it, rather than this very narrow, one step at a time approach. But school reverses that funnel for most kids. It takes the wide funnel and it inverts it, and it starts up here with a really narrow funnel. And so what happens is we teach children to read one word at a time. Pretty painful. Pretty painful. And so we take this natural love of learning that children have and we break it down, we reduce it to this very painful reflective consciousness. Now, when we go to photo reading, what we're doing is engaging your non-conscious brain. And by non-conscious brain, I mean everything that's not the prefrontal cortex, the conscious mind up here. In the non-conscious brain, we engage all of the parts of our brain in this process that we call photo reading. Now, there's something called the Lyman standard, or the threshold. It's the threshold between the active brain and the non-conscious brain, or the conscious and non-conscious brain. Photo reading operates at the Lyman standard, at the threshold, at the connection point between your conscious brain and your unconscious brain. And so it takes advantage of what you consciously understand, but also what you unconsciously, or not unconsciously, but non-consciously retain and have learned. And the net result is that you've got access to a vastly larger amount of information. So that's the first resource that it takes advantage of, is your non-conscious mind. But I said there were two of them. The second resource is what's called the preconscious processor. Now, I have to explain this just a little bit, but essentially the way our brains work, as I understand it, is that they filter out information that we don't need at any given moment, and they route you to information that you do need. That's what your brain is designed to do. It filters out all the extraneous, irrelevant stuff and keeps you focused on what you need. Apparently, our brains can distinguish stimuli and do without engaging our conscious mind. So there's all sorts of things going on in the background all the time. We have only a passing, if any, sense of it going on. It's just happening because our conscious brain is working on a very small platform relative to our non-conscious brain. Now, when it comes to reading, this has a particular application. Studies have shown that the non-conscious brain sees a word and processes it 0.25, a quarter of a second, before you have any conscious awareness of the word. In other words, our brain actually fools us or tricks us into thinking we're reading it. So we read a word on the screen or in a book, and we think, well, I've now read that word. But in fact, we now know that your non-conscious brain has processed that word before the message ever got to your conscious brain. So it's already there before that. That's pretty amazing, because if you can take advantage of that skill, well, there must be something else there. Well, here's the way that the numbers work. And again, these are staggering numbers, but consistent scientific studies and research and reports say the same thing. Our eyes and brain can gather material, information, 10 million bits per second. 10 million bits per second. Okay, that's pretty fast. But here's how much we consciously perceive. Ready? So we got 10 million bits per second. What we consciously perceive is 40 bits, not 40 million, 40 bits per second. So we got 10 million bits that we bring in, but we only consciously perceive 40 bits. Another way to think about this is that if you were to put a circle around where you're standing right now, and that circle were, say, 12 inches in diameter, that would represent the conscious brain. It's 40 bits that it's processing. But the radius of the circle of the non-conscious brain would be 11 miles in diameter. Pretty amazing, huh? Now, to get beyond the need to control it all consciously is what photo reading does. In other words, and again, I won't sing it, but you got to let it go. You've got to let go of the desire to know everything one word at a time. And when you do that, what happens is that you now begin to take advantage of the non-conscious processing instead of this very tiny conscious processing. Well, that's a huge change for a bar taker, because a bar taker typically will come to me and say, I got to know it all. I got to learn it all. I got to read everything. I got to memorize everything. Oh, I can't possibly read as fast as you want me to because I've got to understand it all. Well, here's the irony. The slower you go, the less you remember. Study after study confirms that. See, the old paradigm was that you had to read to fill up your brain. You had to put information into the brain. But the new paradigm, and by new I mean relatively new with photo reading, is that you ask yourself, how could this information serve me? So in the bar, what you say is, how can this information help me answer a question an essay question, a multi-state question? How can it help me inform my understanding of the law, or recognize how to write an argument, or how to be persuasive? How does this information help me? And when you can identify how it will help you accomplish your goal to pass the bar exam, your dreams of what that would mean to you, suddenly you have access to a vast resource that up until now was there, but you never did anything with it. Now, people sometimes say to me, well, is it hard to learn how to photo read? And I say no, it's like watching a movie. It's actually very simple. It's only hard when people try to make it hard. And if there's any group in the world that's good at making things hard, it's bar takers. But the reality is that learning how to photo read is actually quite simple. It can be taught through 7 one-hour lessons that are part of the course. But the reality of that is that actually you can learn it in just a few minutes. It's not very difficult. The reality of photo reading is that any information can be consumed this way. Some people ask, well, does it only work for printed books? No, you could use it on printed books. You can use it on online digital books. You can use it for magazines or newspapers. You can use it for any source of visual stimuli. Whatever it is, it'll work. And I think that's really wonderful, because it means you don't have to have a set of printed books to make this work. Again, it's not speed reading where you have to have a printed book, so something to keep in mind. So what we're doing when we photo read is we're tapping into the genius that's already in you. And some of you I know are thinking, oh, I don't want to hear about genius in me. I mean, that's just psychobabble BS. Okay. But here's the reality. You're pretty smart to have gotten through law school and to be in a position to take the bar exam. By many standards, you would be considered a genius. Now, maybe you weren't a genius in your law school class, but relative to the world, you are a genius. I'm saying there's even more genius in you, and it's really relatively easy to tap into it. But for those of you that are, you can't tell me anything, I know it all, okay, you win, right? But for those of you that are willing to be taught, that are willing to let that inner genius come out, it can be a game changer. And at the end of the day, isn't that really the point? You want to pass the bar? Okay, here's how you do it. I mean, people say to me, what do I have to do to pass the bar? Well, I think one thing is you got to be a photo reader. I think it really makes a difference. Now, when you're photo reading, what's going to happen is that you'll be able to get through extraordinary amounts of material in much less time. Let me quantify that for you. Typically, if you take one of our subject outlines for, let's say, a multi-state subject, it runs about 150 pages in a printed book. And if you were reading it traditionally, one word at a time, it would not be uncommon to expect it to take you 10 to 15 hours to read those 150 pages. In fact, I have people that go far beyond 15 hours. The interesting thing is that if we test their comprehension at that point, comprehension is far less than 65% for those slow readers. In fact, it's under 50%. So it's a very inefficient way to read. Now, what we do in our traditional course is that we don't have you read it that way. We at least have you skim it. That's sort of the poor man's photo reading, if you will. And when we have you skim it in 3 hours instead of 10 or 15 hours, we see comprehension moving up, but still not reaching quite that 65% level. So you can skim and get the material that way. What if you photo read? Well, if you photo read, you should be able to do the same 150 pages in about 15 to 30 minutes, and your comprehension will be over 70%. Something to think about, isn't it? Now, the other part of this is I said, the people that are sort of resistant, kind of the Flat Earth Society folks that are out there. But here's what I've discovered. If you want to get a different result, if you want to get something new, you've really got to do something new. And I think for the people that just keep trying to read and study the way they've always read and studied, they're really dooming themselves to pretty much the same results over and over again. And while there are things we can do to help and try and move that needle, there's no faster, better, more efficient way to move the needle than by using something like photo reading, because it gives you a new approach to the material. Now, how does photo reading work? I mean, what are the logistics of it? Well, it's actually, as I said, very simple. There are only 5 steps, and in the course that comes from Learning Strategies that we make available to our bar students when they order it, there are 5 things you learn to do. You learn how to prepare before the reading, which takes about a minute. I mean, when you're actually doing it, it takes about a minute of preparation. Then you're going to preview the material, which before you read it, and that's really just asking, what do I want to know out of this material? What are my questions? What if I were sitting down with the author, which in this case would be me, I guess, what do I want Jackson to tell me about this material? Okay, and you're going to take a few minutes, maybe 5 or 6 minutes on average, to preview 150 pages of material. Then you're going to photo read it, and photo reading is literally looking at the 4 corners of the page, if it's a printed page, looking at the middle of the page, and as if you were taking a picture with your eyes. So click, 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 although you don't blink each time, but you're really doing what's called a blip page. It means just a broad focus, and you're literally turning the page, saying to yourself, relax, 1, 2, 3, 4, turn the page. That's literally what you're doing. And you're going through the pages just that way. So that 150 pages will take you about 10 minutes or so to literally do the photo reading, the physical photo reading. Now, sometimes people will stop, and I'll stop here at this stage. People will say, well, I photo read it, but I didn't remember anything. Well, no, it's not putting it into photographic memory in your brain. You don't have photographic recall, but you're putting it into your non-conscious brain, and that's where the next 2 steps become important, because all of that material is now in your head. And here's the weird part. You could actually photo read upside down and backwards, and because of the way our brains process information, it would still be there. And I've done this, I've done it with people, and it's mind-blowing, but it's the reality. It doesn't really matter. But in any event, you photo read for about 10 minutes. The 4th step is what's called a post view. Post viewing is when you literally go in now after having photo read and you sleep on it overnight. You let the material process kind of like a backup in your brain. And now you go back and you start asking specific questions. What do I want to know about the rule against perpetuities, or the hearsay exception, or the First Amendment with respect to freedom of speech? And as you begin to ask those questions, you find yourself identifying particular information in the text that's valuable to you. That's a relatively short process, in some cases 10-15 minutes typically, to just do some general post-viewing. And then the last step in photo reading is you activate it. You start using the material to figure out what's important to you. Now here's where it gets super cool. I know, super cool. How old am I? When we started creating the bar review course 25 years ago, so 10 years after photo reading, I did not know about photo reading, but I was working in one of the more exciting educational environments in the country called the Celebration School. I've told many of you this story. And at Celebration School, which is a joint venture of the Walt Disney Corporation and Harvard School of Education and Johns Hopkins and a number of other prominent universities and educational thought leaders, we began to discover ways that people were learning from kindergarten through adults that were different ways of learning than the traditional funnel that I described to you earlier. And we were working on the same the same paradigm that photo reading was being built on, without knowing about photo reading. I didn't specifically know about it at the time, but we were doing the same kind of work. So I started from the beginning of Celebration Bar Review to create a concept in which people would skim, because I didn't know about photo reading, but they would do a fast read, and then I would activate what they had read through the lectures and the question practice review, which was done in small increments over a period of time. Well, that was really powerful and very, very effective. When we then found out about photo reading, like I say, 8-9 years ago, I was like, you know, the cartoon character whose eyes go boing. You know, I couldn't believe it. It was like, oh my gosh, here's a process that will work for people, and I've already got the activation step built into the course. So if you're a photo reader in our course, here's what happens. You photo read a particular piece of information, an outline, let's say. You go through those first 4 steps of preparing, previewing, photo reading, and then post-viewing. But then I take over in the bar review and I activate that same material through the way I lecture and through your question practice. Activation is nothing other than what it sounds like. We're just taking what you've learned back here in your non-conscious brain and we're firing it. We're making it activate for you. And suddenly what you begin to discover is you know the answers to questions. You don't know why you know them, you just know them. You know how to write the law when you're writing an essay. You don't know why you know it, you just know it. It comes from the activation process that we're doing. So it coordinates and works together with photo reading to enhance it and make it even more valuable to you. And that's the beauty of putting photo reading together with our bar review course. And I say that because some people will say, well, why couldn't I just do photo reading on my own? Well, you could, and it would help you. But without our activation, without our coordination, you lose a big part of getting that material to work. Conversely, why can't you just take our course and not photo read? Well, you can, but if you photo read, you're putting a lot more information into the pipeline for me to activate, and therefore it's more effective for you. Hope that makes sense. I know we've got lots of you online, and if it's making sense, and I see some of you are already photo readers, so hopefully you're with me, and I'd love to get your reaction and feedback. But that is the essence of what we're doing. We're taking this information, you're photo reading it, putting it into your non-conscious brain, you're using that and your pre-conscious processor, and then I'm bringing it into use on the tests in every method that we can do. Okay, so I hope that makes sense to everybody. Hope that we're good with that. All right. Well, that's all I wanted to talk about for today. I've got more to say about paraliminals, but I think I've given you enough here to work on today. So next week we'll talk about paraliminals and how those work with photo reading and show you that. What I do want to tell you right now is that you can take advantage of photo reading in our bar review course, and we'll put the link up on the Facebook Live and on our podcast. You can order the photo reading course for $295 and add it to your bar review, and we'll integrate it into your studies, into your study plan, and I'll teach you and work with you. The photo reading course will be a digital download that you can put on any device that you own and take advantage of it and use it in any time and forever. It doesn't go away. I think you're going to love it, and I think it's a great resource for you. So I really encourage you to check out photo reading. If you're in our course and you haven't used it, check it out. If you're not in our course yet, take a look at photo reading and then look at our course, and I think you'll see that it's a good combination, and I encourage you to take advantage of that, of all of those pieces. Well, it's been great having you with me today. If you want to know more about this, like I say, we'll put the links in. I also invite you to join us on our webinar, How to Make the Next Bar Exam Your Last Bar Exam. We'll be talking about some of the background about why photo reading and our approach works so effectively, and that webinar we'll link to as well. So for today, I'm going to sign off. Thanks for being with me. I hope that you are at least intrigued with this idea of photo reading, and look forward to seeing your name on the pass list and to seeing you as a successful photo reader. Thanks for now. Bye-bye.
You're going to receive a book. You'll have 30 minutes. At the end of that 30 minutes, you have to tell us everything about the book. Imagine the worst thing that could happen. You couldn't answer a question, right? Now imagine yourself on national TV.
Nervous about anything that's got to do with reading.
Well, I haven't read much, have I? To go to a library, if I go to a library and take a book out, I need 6 months to get through it. So truly, I wouldn't go to libraries. No.
And I'm out to have, to not let that stop me in life anymore.
I originally started in a class in accounting in 121 in college, and I really had some problems. It was like a foreign language. I just wasn't able to grasp it, and in the first test, I totally zeroed out.
Because I've been used to reading in one particular way all my life, and for me to think that I'm going to change overnight is probably unreasonable.
I've done track for 3 years, and when I run, it's not the way I run at practice. When I continue to photo read, that positive thoughts will go into my subconscious mind, and that I'll believe more in myself.
I came from Malaysia. We were very used to memorizing things. All the time you're consciously focusing on trying to memorize and figure out material word by word. And I struggled to finish essays. I spent all my time trying to keep up with the work.
I'm a lawyer in St. Thomas. There's so much that you need to read to keep up. So if you have a lot of preparation to do, especially if things have come up that you hadn't expected, you get very little sleep.
I worked a lot on my personal development. 5 years from now, I will dedicate my time to people living in developing countries, probably mainly Africa and South America, helping teachers, getting new techniques.
Have you ever walked past a book and gone, "Whoosh, I need this book, I need this book." And you pick up the book, you open to a page, and that's a page you needed to see? And that's a paragraph you needed to read? And that paragraph answered a question that you have been struggling with? How did your brain know to do that? That's activation. You know, the mechanical steps of activation. We start with post-viewing. We do a little incubation, right? We get into some mind probing, which is revisiting those questions we've formulated. Now we get into some soup reading and dipping, some skittering, some discussion, right? You know the steps, right? If you're not confident in that, then practice the steps. And let me tell you, it's not about the steps. The steps are a big ruse to get you over your hurdle thinking that you don't already know everything that's in that book.
I really wanted to participate in the retreat because it's a chance for me to refine my activation skills.
I've sort of forgotten the power of activation. Still don't photo read everything I read.
I've done track for 3 years, and I really just made my mind up that now, since it's my last year of track, I don't have anything I can not gain from doing everything I can. So I'm excited, and hopefully that will help me a lot.
Think of it beginning with setting the stage. You have to set the stage before you do any activation. When do you start activating? You start activating with your purpose. You set your purpose. After previewing, what do you do before photo reading? You set your purpose. When you're done photo reading, you're going to start activating. What do? Set your purpose. If you don't set your purpose every time, you're putting your brain at a tremendous disadvantage.
Photo reading without a clearly stated purpose is like looking for an answer when you don't have a question.
And then once you get that purpose, you should be able to skim down the page and find the word or find the thought that you're drawn to. And I wasn't getting that. I wasn't getting that thought, that draw to the word.
I really didn't feel like my purpose was very clear. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to get out of the different groups that I was in. I was kind of frustrated, and it was because I hadn't established a clear enough purpose.
Most of the information, if you don't need it right away, you're not gonna find it in the book. If you don't need something, then how are you gonna get it?
When I formulate my purpose and I photo read, I found that it comes together so quickly.
All my life I've always thought that the print on the page was more important than anything else. So say for example I read a sentence, I thought, that's the message that I'm supposed to be getting. But with photo reading, I realized that the most important thing is not what's on the page, it's what's behind my eyes. It's what's actually going on inside of my head.
You don't interact with the pages, you don't interact with the text. It's not the words on the page, it's you with your energy inside of you interacting with this waveform that was that author for a year or 2 years putting that thing together. And you're saying, give it to me. What do I need to know that's going to give me my purpose?
I basically say, this is what I'm after. Is there anything in your book that can help me? Whereas in the past it was, tell me what I need to know about this. The thing is, that's not clear, that's not specific, and I want what's in my life right now, what's going to be useful to me.
You tell your non-conscious mind what your purpose is, what it was, and it will provide it.
Purpose is so important. I never ever understood that until this week. your mind will just stop when you see that word that you need to cue you off on, hey, this is the subject that will basically explain the answer to my question.
When you're doing photo reading, if you have thoughts about what you're not doing well in the technique, then you're typically drawn to those.
Now this is setting the stage for good input here, right? What you're doing with affirmation is you're predetermining the end result. Dr. David Wark did an amazing study of the use of affirmation on the effect of comprehension. And he found a statistically significant increase in a person's comprehension of what they read when they gave themselves positive, affirmative statements of their ability to comprehend this material.
With my friends, I golf, and one of the things that the golf psychologists teach is that when you come up to a hole and you want to avoid something, let's say there's a lake on the left, you don't want to hit it into the lake. What you want to do is say, I'm hitting it to the right this time, hitting it to the right.
As I photo read, my concentration is absolute. All that I photo read makes a lasting impression on my inner mind and is available to me. I desire the information in this book. Recommended, state the title and author. Simultaneously visualize the cover of the book. Okay, this is because how much more of your neural systems are you using when you go from pure auditory into visual? Okay, if you can get a picture of the author as well in your head, even more powerful, because you're connecting in a very deep way then.
The main purpose for me continuing with the photo reading and coming here was I'm out to accomplish being a successful trader of the futures market.
You step up to a book, you envelop that book, and you know if that book isn't right for you, how long does it take you to figure that out?
There are reasons people are picking up certain books and choosing them, and if they were forced to take certain books, they just wouldn't have the energy or the motivation to get any information out of the book.
Today when I was photo reading the book that we're going to work through each day of the week, I didn't even want to go through it in the end. I felt, I was actually in tears. The tears were there. Lynn said, after I sort of told this to her, she just said, look, this book's not right for you. And I said, what do you mean it's not right for me? This is my life, I want what's in this book.
When we're talking about the power of the non-conscious mind, that's exactly the kinds of things that we're talking about.
Come up to it with a full expectation. Your mind can make that discrimination, flip through the pages, and you decide, is this for me or not? If it's not, move on.
I got to the point where I thought, look, I'll choose a book, another book I bought, which is important to me, and it was called Lasting Love. And I thought, I'll ask for one thing that's going to make a difference for me. And I got the one thing that would make a difference for me in that short period of time, in those last few seconds.
The best learners that were researched were highly resilient, meaning if they did something and it didn't work, they didn't think, I'm a failure, I can't do this, I'm no good.
I've got some books now on loving conscious relationships, and I've been with my husband Daryl since we were like 18, 19, and to have more love and intimacy in the relationship. We're really good friends, and but when you've been together for 30 years plus, relationships are a challenge, don't you reckon?
Guarantee it. As long as they're carrying this, I'm so lousy at super reading. Guess what? That's the truth, right? Whatever you say, that's the truth. So if you want to change it, it starts with the internal energy around it.
A lot of it has to do with beliefs that we have about ourselves, and I realized that there are beliefs that when I go to practice, I'm more excited versus when I go to a meet. And a lot of my friends, they train for the meet, and it should be that way. And my coach, he kind of picked up on it this past year because he was saying, maybe it's something in your subconscious mind that you beliefs about yourself and how you perform.
No matter what happens, you get up and you play some more. You release, you notice, you respond in a new way. Witness the effects of that.
So I've made my day here today to be one where I can enjoy and play. So enjoy and play. I'm getting it.
Resiliency, according to Dr. Al Siebert, is a result of strength in 3 nervous systems. The central nervous system, which is in charge of our thinking, our cognitive visual processing, left and right hemispheric processing, associated with our identity or self-concept. The autonomic nervous system, this is in charge of your feelings. This is your self-worth or your self-esteem. The third is the somatic nervous system. This is in charge of your actions. You strengthen the somatic nervous system, you get self-confidence. All of this is part way before you even photo read, isn't it? Your activation, the secrets of good activation start right here at this stage.
Releasing negative emotions helps me because there's things that we believe about ourselves that aren't true, and if we hold on to those thoughts, then we won't allow ourselves to try anything new, and we won't see our true potential.
I think releasing negative emotions does help me. Let them happen. Don't label them. Whatever they mean, just they're there. Experience them and let them go. They're there to maybe provide a gift for you and as an individual, and once they're gone, they're gone. You just got to work through them.
I really got a lot out of that, and it was just stop resisting. Just accept the way you are and accept that you're perfect in every way. And if you accept yourself the way you are now, then you can take steps and go to where you want to be.
So when you have the attitude going into this, I can do this, is it going to make a difference? What? Of course it is. Of course it is.
I chose a book about overcoming all my fears and anxieties and guilt, and it was like, yeah, what do I want to get out of this? How can this make a difference in my life? I felt inspired by it.
There's only one person in the world who's going to benefit most from you acting as if this is true. Guess who? Yeah, you are. But you know what? The rest of the world's going to be the beneficiary of that.
The type of work I do tends to make me very myopic and very tunnel visioned with respect to things, because unless I can see empirical data, hard physical proof of something's presence, I usually have a tendency to want to reject it, at least in my line of work. And this is quite a deviation from that.
Look at the space that your feet cover on the floor. How much space is that? That's your conscious awareness. That's how much your conscious mind perceives. Now look at the rest of the floor. Not just here. Down the hallway. Out through the whole building. On and on and on. 15 centimeters, 11 miles. Conscious resource, other than conscious resource. I'm here photo reading this book. Flip, 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 flip. I get done, I close it, I look under my feet. So what did I get from this? I didn't get anything. What's going on? I don't think photo reading works. Meanwhile, over here, there's this part of me which is jumping up and down and saying, I'm over here, I'm on page 142, it's right here, it's right here, it's right here. Come on! Why? Because this is my non-conscious mind. It's all over here. It's so vast. I photo read, but it's connected over here. So meanwhile, my limited conscious mind is looking at this information and thinking, well, I don't think I got anything here. Look. I'm looking to my primary working memory. There's nothing here. Photo reading doesn't work. When it comes to activation, if you try to think that everything's going to be at a conscious level, you really get bogged down.
Even though you know you're using your non-conscious or other than conscious mind, you still sort of think that you're going to know that you know the stuff in the book when you photo read. But of course, you don't until you activate it. And even then, it's not the same as just having read a book. It's that when you need the information, it's there, but you don't necessarily know that it's going to be there. It's just there.
During a conversation following a photo reading session, we were talking about a subject I do not feel comfortable about, and the kind of reactions I got from the people I was talking with was, well, you must be an expert on the subject, and I wasn't at all. It was just, to me, it was just common sense, you know.
During the process, it just didn't make any sense. But in the last few minutes, suddenly my mind went click, and all this information came together, and I could give an overview of the stuff. Sure, I couldn't go into great detail, but I could intelligently talk about it.
Say active. Active. Yes. If you're sitting there with a blank sheet of paper and pens ready to mind map, and you're looking under your feet, what am I supposed to mind map? There's nothing here. Is that active? No way. So what do I have to do? I have to go like this. I have to look through the book. I have to ask questions. I hear something. Something's calling to me. Ah, it's over there. And you feel yourself going to that place. You open to that page. Boom, there it is. So the idea of activation is get out there and start realizing information doesn't go anywhere. It's you already. And your brain is waiting to show you where it is. Got it?
Stuff came up, a lot of fears about being able to activate and knowing that the best way to activate is to just let go of it and not. The biggest thing I think is that I have to stop looking for the conventional ways of gaining the information, because that's not the way it comes.
All I'm saying is if you change the paradigm, that it's an energetic interaction that we're having, what is light and dark? It's a binary code for on and off, isn't it? Light, dark. That's all that's happening. And these waveforms are hitting this neurophysiology.
Everything is energy and vibration, and everything is connected. It's really all one. And it manifests in different ways. So that the unconscious mind, as you go back into the deeper and deeper parts of the unconscious mind, you're actually going back into that level that actually connects everyone in all life.
I think the unconscious mind is just phenomenal, really. It takes in so much extra information than the conscious mind, and what is really amazing, I think, is our ability to tap into that unconscious mind and really link it back to conscious comprehension, conscious knowing. And I think that's where the potential lies.
The most exciting thing about the human brain's potential is that I don't think that its potential is really known. I'm sure that I'm not aware of the total ability of my brain and my productivity. I'm only now getting a glimpse of what I think is possible for me to do and to develop. But overall, I think that we're really on the threshold of a tremendous breakthrough in terms of understanding the capabilities of human productivity.
I'm a child of the 60s and actually became a lawyer because at that time, that is one of the ways that you felt you could really change the world and make a difference. There were quite a few of us that were not just protecting activists, but were activists ourselves. The whole purpose was to empower people that had historically been denied power over their own lives. And now, that is becoming even more important, because before it was just like certain groups, but now basically people generally are not empowered.
I spent a lot of time just being in the office, traveling, coming back home at night, and at night I just want to kick back for a little while, but it's already 10 o'clock at night when I get back home, and it's time to get up and start over again. I've missed time with my family. Like my daughter, I used to go see her plays. She's into drama at school, and haven't seen any of them in the last 6 months. So this has been bothering me for a little while now, and I definitely need to make some changes right now.
The issue now is to sort of have people recognize that they still do have power over their own lives and can make a difference. It can really change their world. The theory and the practice of photo reading does more than just help you to read more and to understand more in a shorter period of time. It really begins to activate the real power that's within each of our lives.
If you ask yourself this question, what do I know about this book that can guide me to my purpose? Is that good?
I pulled out a 1,725-page book, and I said, I want to know more things about a remote desktop. Terminal server is actually the proper name for it, terminal server.
I was actually looking for a viewpoint on Locke's philosophy on human understanding.
What signals can I notice inside of me that will guide me to the place I need to go?
When I was activating, my tummy heated up. And today, the most amazing thing happened. My arm started to hurt.
1524. I was just photo reading. Server management, terminal server. I was, whoa, this is amazing.
You're in contact with the author. What question do you want to ask? What's your purpose? What do you want to open up for yourself? That's what it's about.
How did I know that I was going to stop on this last page? So I flipped back a couple pages, kind of trying to find out something. A little topic about that big. It was on the bottom of it, and it said, in the next chapter you will learn about terminal server and how it progresses to the server management. Whoa, it works.
And what I was after, I got. It was just a fraction of information, but as far as I'm concerned, that was a signal for me, because as soon as I got the information, the arm stopped.
The more I think I can interact with an author, the more I can get into his viewpoint and get what he wants to convey, which is useful to me, immediately out of the book.
I was attracted to a certain part of the book. It was about 3/4 of the way through. And my conscious mind said, come on, the main point of the book can't be 3/4 of the way through. They would have had to talk about it earlier. But I said, okay, well, thanks for sharing, and let's just pay attention to the intuition. And that, of course, was the exact main point, and it was what my partner asked. So what I really got was a sense of allowing myself to be attracted to certain things and parts of the book as opposed to looking for what I quote-unquote thought made sense. And the more I've been giving that up, the further I've been going.
How many of you were raised being told to turn off the radio, sit up straight, turn on that light, sit at your desk, and study like that? Okay? For how many of you is that exactly how not to study? Interesting.
Traditional schooling in the Western world is largely set up on a model that's very old, agrarian. How can we best make workers and farmers and soldiers? And that model really doesn't work so well, but some of the things it teaches us is to always be right. Learning is not about being right. Learning is about gathering knowledge and turning that knowledge through experience into wisdom. And, you know, those types of things just aren't taught in schools. And so we have to unlearn that there's only one way to learn.
When you study, you should study in a way that is your learning style's preference. You have gifts in more than just the first two intelligences. Understand your gifts. That's why we gave you the learning style preferences. Understand the gifts. All of them are available to you. You have a preference for some of them. Use them to facilitate the way you go into these materials.
Understanding my learning style helps me because I know what my strengths are and I can improve on areas that I'm not very good at learning in, and I can take the areas that I'm really great at learning in and use those tools and learn more things from how I learn best.
And for me, I'm a very visual learner, and visual text as well as visual images. And I knew that to be the case, but I think for me it allows me to work with that because it allows me to go towards where I'm better off in terms of my learning style.
Understanding my learning style helps me in a very efficient way because I can learn quicker, more intensive, and more relaxed, because so was all these things like I'm more visual or I'm more kinesthetic. That helps much to know this.
I'm a visual thinker. I love to visualize things, and when I hear people talk, the best way I remember what they're saying is basically by kind of doing a mind map in my head, and I'll, certain words come to mind, certain images come to my mind, and then I can kind of just put it all together. And then when you read a story, I mean, for me, it's only a great story if I can reenact it on my mind, and that's the way that I learn.
Now, if I put on this hat, and I get my air guitar out, which intelligence am I most used to? There's a certain rhythm to the musical intelligence. It's not so much that you have music going, but that you have a certain rhythm that's going to facilitate the way in which you study.
I cannot have competing music with lyrics or television on in the background or somebody carrying on a conversation. I'm not at my best in those times because I'm a very auditory person.
I came to the conclusion that conversation is a very powerful activation part of the process.
Interpersonal, loves to talk about it. It's very powerful activation technique. In school, they call that cheating.
I know I've got the benefit of photo reading when I am able to share the content of the book and to build on the content of the book through a conversation with other people.
So which one is this? Which intelligence is this? Mathematical logical, absolutely. What's this one? Yes, the one that categorizes and understands how things are separate and connected and that sort of thing. Mind mappers love naturalist intelligence as well. Bodily kinesthetic, right? Got to be moving. I knew a speaker, he absolutely could not sit and speak. He had to be moving. When you're done photo reading the book, the first thing you could do is mentally build this giant sculpture of it out of clay. Just get in there and mold it with your hands and squish all over it and make it into some symbol that represents a book for you. Use your bodily kinesthetic intelligence.
It's not a question of what's easiest. These are all things that you do. So it's not really either or.
Intrapersonal. That's why we put Qigong energy, opening channels in the morning. We also say, notice, go inside, do the meditation, open those energy channels, keep it going. Pay attention. This is the one that's going to give you that primary consciousness in the moment, right now, aware of the images, the sounds, the feelings that are happening at this moment. The more of these you can use, the better.
It actually had, it broke down the various intelligences that you have, which are really in your other than conscious mind, and gave specific protocols, specific exercises to use to develop them, to develop each of them.
How soon should you be proficient with the book? Immediately upon flipping the pages? I'm talking about at a conscious level. How do we stay aware of our experience and not go into reflective consciousness too soon? This secret is probably the most difficult for all first-time photo readers. It's that ability to be in primary consciousness.
I've always gone into primary consciousness because of the time limits that I set for myself. But it's only when I came here that I realized what it was that made the flow state so effective. And now I know what it is, I can reproduce it.
I was kind of questioning how much I was really activating in the book because it felt like the subtitles were just standing out to me. A couple other things were standing out to me. and the subtitles were really relevant to what I was trying to get out of the book. It just felt like they were standing out to me because they were bigger letters, and it didn't really feel like something was popping out.
On any given page of text, 4 to 11% of those words carry the meaning. 4 to 11%. And that means within the context of that page, all the rest of the words are connected to those, but not necessarily salient. So what we want to do is we want to use our activation time to find how much of that text. 4 to 11%, because the other 89 to 96% is connected to that. So we're taking it from whole to parts. Reading has been parts to whole. Photo reading is whole to parts. So what's relevant? What's relevant in this chapter? What's relevant in this section of the book? What's relevant? 4 to 11%. Stay in tune with your peripheral awareness. This exercise, placing your hand over the book, going into the book energetically, that's staying attuned to your peripheral awareness, making a decision, noticing the effect of that. Where's that information coming from? That deeper, non-conscious resources coming to the surface. Those of you who had the experience we're talking about here, when you went back into the book, it was startling how the choice you made was the right one.
It was almost as if, will I know this information? And then inside of myself I said, trust myself. My inner mind is more powerful and more resourceful than my conscious mind is. And it was just about letting my conscious mind, calm down, don't worry. And I had my conscious mind, I heard it saying, you can't do that. And I sort of said, thanks very much for that, but let's see what happens.
That's what I call the you'll see it when you believe it syndrome. If you don't believe it can work, it won't work. If you believe it's possible, it will work.
Whatever you have to do mechanically to get yourself into the book, that's it. Photo reading is an easy enough step, right? Conscious mind comes in and says, I don't know if I got anything out of it. Well, go prove it to yourself then. Prove that you got something out of it. What do you want to know? Have somebody ask you a question. Prove it. I can't prove it to you. You could watch me photo read a zillion books and get on TV and Pete and everybody else, and it won't matter until you do it, right? So do it.
One of the things that came out of this course was the whole emphasis on attitude.
I tend to beat up myself pretty good. I can get frustrated pretty easy when I don't get what I want.
In photo reading, you are never sure. And that may be stressful. You are never sure. You may succeed, and the next time you photo read a book, you feel like you failed. And so what happens? Did I lose the whole stuff, or did I do something wrong?
Someone could say, you're a failure. What does that have to do with you? That is their opinion, right? The moment you decide you're a failure, now you get to suffer. My suggestion to you is free the energy now.
Whereas before you'd look at a huge textbook and you'd go, oh, I've got to muddle through that. Now you look at a stack of books and you say, wow, I've got the opportunity now to just devour all that knowledge.
You're going to receive a book. You'll have 30 minutes. At the end of that 30 minutes, you have to tell us everything about the book.
But am I going to be up the front doing that?
Could well be.
What?
I thought it was a joke. It is not.
Imagine the worst thing that could happen. You couldn't answer a question, right?
I didn't know we were going to go on stage.
I feel pretty nervous. Now imagine yourself on national TV.
It's the one that's been chosen for me, okay? I haven't read the book yet. Pete just gave it to me.
Let's just say, look, I haven't had much level of comprehension anyway, after photo reading and trying to activate books.
Everybody deals with those kind of fears every day about, am I not getting this? Why is this popping out on the page?
If you have an expectation of yourself and you don't perform up to that expectation, there's a crisis that happens.
It was just not coming together. I was trying to get into it, and I couldn't seem to really get the techniques of activation very well.
At that crisis moment, what will you do? Lower your expectations? If you do, your performance has to follow.
I'm not sure I could do it. I could try.
I would feel that I'd need a miracle to help me answer them.
The fear I have is that I wouldn't be able to answer any question.
Your brain freeze, not remember exactly what you're going to say or what you're going to do.
It's sort of a public event, and I have no possibility to escape, and everybody will know that I didn't do well.
They ask you a question, are you going to remember it? So that would probably be the scariest part about it.
At that crisis point, when your expectation and your performance don't match, you maintain a high level of expectation, your performance will come up. Will it ever meet exactly your expectations? Maybe, maybe not. It's not important.
When you do a challenge like that, you have to believe in yourself and you have to raise the bar for your performance and your expectations of your performance.
I guess I saw photo reading as a way that I could start to accomplish things or do things that other people seem to already be able to do.
I'd be pretty scared, I think, but I came on this retreat for the experience, and hey, if that's what it takes to do it, I think I could probably live it down.
I don't feel perfectly comfortable about it.
If you have that much pressure on you, I'd be worried.
I skydive, and tonight, being on the stage, I see myself just before skydiving.
I've learned that, to get over a fear, you must face it fully.
And to do that, it says a lot about a person to be able to step out and do that. And that's the way, skills are advanced, breakthroughs are made.
I'm on that path where it's a little bit at a time and just keep going forward.
If I could learn to photo read, and if I could get access to this, and I'd be freed up in some way to enjoy my life.
You know what the next step is for you? Take the challenge. The 30 minutes begins now. Tiffany's on center stage, and Dr. Mike Bennett is going to be asking her a series of questions on the book that she has been photo reading and activating.
What are the star, the circle, the compass, the spiral path? There are three others. What is the fifth law of money? What are the 6 pillars of fundamental short selling? What are the 5 steps necessary to set the subconscious to work? What is this energy center? There's 2 names for it.
When you recall something, you're using auditory memory. It's good for about 40% of the information you studied.
I believe they represent their cycle of shopping, why they purchased the items.
You're hitting all around it.
that you need to put people first, money second, something like, I can't quite remember the heading that she had for it.
The first is the balance sheet, the fundamentals of the balance sheet. The second one is eluding me.
5 are...
I know it's something to do with chakras, but for some reason, I don't know, the tribal mind is coming into my thoughts.
I show you 100 words, 10 minutes. You have 10 minutes to memorize this list. I cover it up. I say, okay, recall as many of those words as you can. You're going to come up with about 40 of those words. Now I show you a list of 200, 100 of which was the original list. And I say to you, tell me how many of these words were on the original list. You will get virtually every single one of them.
Specify, take time, there's a third.
Go with recognition first. They ask you a question, sounds familiar. Let me give you a little bit of what I know about it.
How about if I'll give you maybe a stream of consciousness thought here.
Doesn't it start with an M?
Yes.
For some reason, I'm getting the heart center. It's, I don't know.
Intimate suggestion or something like that?
Here's what I know. I know there's more in there. It'll come to me. Ask me some more questions.
I know it's like representing a cycle of something, because the women's like went round.
And what you'll discover is that more of it opens up.
Their thinking process towards like buying the product.
It is an attempt to understand the thinking process of women, yes.
In the book, he basically goes on about the importance of the Pareto principle in prioritizing, which is a key trait of a leader.
Miss Staley's thesis for the whole book is that she short sell stocks or bets on them going down due to the information found in a balance sheet.
What is right for you first?
Excellento.
They like more hands-on help by sales people.
Absolutely.
The fifth one was don't confuse unconscious and worry.
That's right.
There were 3 things that came to me. One is the tribal. The second is individual, and third is symbolic. That's what came to me.
Most memory experts will tell you recognition is a low-level memory. Wrong.
There are 5 levels of leadership. Name one.
Can I name 5?
It is absolutely the doorway to get you everything you need.
I sort of suspected I could do it before, but I never thought I'd get the chance to do it, and this was really a good chance to show myself that, hey, I can do this.
I was really started to get a bit anxious when I got given my book.
Just to go up there and to confront several fears and trepidations at once is pretty is a pretty cool thing.
I can remember looking somewhere. I was sort of looking places to try and find within myself. I was trying to feel it.
I think I was definitely pleased, and I was even a bit surprised that I did so well.
Hey, I performed, didn't I?
A high school senior up there, in front of 125 people with live cameras running, doing her thing. That's pretty impressive.
I definitely felt like, I can take on the world now.
As I was going through the process of photo reading, it was almost as if my mind was pointing me to certain parts of the book.
And I knew that there was something for me on page 32, lower part of the page.
I knew the information as I was going along, but I found it difficult to sort of capture all that information and take it along with me.
So I went to the page and I basically memorized the key points of that page.
I think that I could actually give a lecture on this, I think, at the moment.
And that it turned to be the answer to the question number 4.
I was surprised when I got up there how, like, I just felt like a lot of information just came to me, and I was pretty relaxed, and I was pretty surprised about that. I thought I was going to be, like, freaking out.
I've never had an experience like that, and I think this is just going to change the way I photo read. I've realized I can pull information out much more quickly. I'm going to cut my time. I'm going to cut my study time. I'm going to have fun.
The importance of this type of processing is unlimited in terms of the effect that it can have on your life.
People in general don't believe they have power to do things.
For weeks before I came here, I had this kind of tension in the top of my neck that I went to osteopaths and whatever, and because I wanted to get rid of that before I came, and I didn't.
If you can show them that, look, this is nothing that I have any special gift for.
I just noticed at the end of the day, I'm thinking, wow, that neck stiffness that I've had for weeks and I've been trying to shift prior to coming here, it's like at least 80% better.
You take the course the same as anyone can take the course, and you can show that it works. That's very empowering.
Yesterday, flicking through all those books, something shifted significantly.
What we want to do is want to keep opening up. You have to do that by boldly taking the challenge.
I was reading books about like the Sedona method and stuff like that, letting go of fears and anxieties, and it was more that kind of books that I was sort of zeroing in a bit on yesterday.
How do you explain this to the rational mind? The conscious mind says, not possible. Autistic kid, books upside down? It's a savant thing. We just don't know about it. Baloney. You've got more power than that.
I photo read a book called The Mental Athlete by Kate Porter, and so many things were coming to me that made perfect sense and that were exactly what I needed to hear, and maybe what things that I didn't want to hear, but they were what I really needed to hear. I just was like sitting there and I was in awe.
Paula told us we were going to read between, 24 to 30 books. Well, it turns out that I only did 18 books. So I happened to talk to one of my friends late last night, and I told her, I only did 18 books. And the phone went dead. She said, 18 books in one day, and you're not happy with that? It takes me 18 days to read one book.
The value of photo reading has been mainly being able to do anything you want.
And this whole freedom from feeling like I'm underneath this pile of information.
But because now it will allow me also some other free time, I'll be able to expand my horizon. So now I look forward to having a much broader scope of life's experiences.
And I'm confident it's going to help me free up some more time because there's so much out there.
I don't think I'll ever go back and conventionally read a nonfiction book.
If I would have known photo reading when I was in grad school, I think I would have enjoyed the experience a whole lot more. I would have gotten more out of it.
But this power is available in lots of other applications of your life.
Being able to learn anything you want, being able to excel in anything you want, pretty much the doors are open.
At the end, the power is there.
And maybe I'll end up at a library or something, find some area that I like and go, well, let's see what I can put into this genius brain here.
So it's really a fascinating sort of concept. And it's even more fascinating is the fact that it works.
The only way that you can get those kinds of experiences is to do it!
My age is 31. Right now I'm trying to get in law school.
I don't think I'll ever want to totally close down my law practice because there's some things about that I enjoy and I can really help people. But I want to get into a totally different line of work.
I want to help people with health and fitness and career direction and help people realize their full potential.
I plan to start another business involving furniture and want to accomplish the photo reading whole mind system to get a wide prospect of what I can do to advance in that.
I was in college, my reading speed was about 110 words a minute, if that. And I was a history major, history, Asian area studies major, and it really hampered me. I love the material, but I could not finish the material.
Of course, just trying to learn the kinds of things that I'm going to need to move into another business while at the same time I'm still practicing law because I still have to make a living, means I have this tremendous time problem.
One of the things we're going to do today is we are going to review the 5 steps of the whole mind reading system with you, and we will want you to do some participation in that. So we would like you to have a book that you want to get really in depth and in detail on that book.
I did the photo reading seminar, which was great. I loved it. It was a vacation for the mind.
The ability to photo read is the cornerstone of everything I'm going to do as far as my future education, my legal education. It's integral to my thinking.
It helps me immensely to review the basics of the photo reading process because everything and anything I've ever done in sports or martial arts, chiropractic, it all starts with the basics.
It's about time, I think, that it's a renewal and a refresher of the 5 steps of photo reading.
Prepare, preview, photo read, activate, and rapid read. Go through the processes and then they become part of yourself, almost like second nature.
Well, when you know the steps better, the process is more fluid for you.
It just sort of reminds you about what are the key stages, because to bring them up, they must be important enough.
So we're going to start with that first one, which is prepare, right? So with prepare, there are really 2 parts, and these 2 parts are what we'll be doing no matter what other step of the system is involved. So the first thing that we do is purpose is key, purpose is in the center, purpose, without it, why bother?
Breaking it down, skimming through the book, finding out, where to look for is probably the hardest part for me. The anxiousness of, am I going to miss something in the book? Is there something in there that I'm not going to find? Or, those are probably the things that worry me the most. But then that all goes back to that I need to make sure I have a good purpose of why I'm reading this. What are my questions of it?
If you went to a travel agent and just said, hello, I'd like a ticket, and they might ask you some important questions. They might want to know what kind of climate you wanted to go to. They might want to know how long you were going to go for. They might want to know how many countries you wanted to travel to. So all of those things are included in prepare, because with prepare, what we're really looking at is how are we going to apply all this information in this book? What are we going to do with that? What is the chunk size that we need? It's easy to opt out and say, oh, I just got to have it all. I just got to have it all. No. Most of the time what we need is some information that is pertinent, valuable, important to us.
The unconscious can help in a tremendous way the conscious mind when you get the skills just to fit them together.
Just at the start, think about why do you want the book, and all the other stages will come to you.
These authors, when they write their book, they really do not think that you're going to carry around the entire word for word for word for word for word understanding of their book. What they know is that you're going to synthesize that into something that is useful for you. One of the things that we discovered a long, long time ago was the value of having a point of attention. Now, we have points of attention or points of focus for almost everything that we do, whether when we're talking, when we're presenting, when we're driving a car, when we're doing, any particular sport. But for reading, what they discovered with these incredibly effective readers was that there was a point of attention that really resided sort of about 12 to 14 inches above and behind the head. Now, what that is basically is an opportunity for you to do just a little bit of a key unlock of attention in whatever way works for you. You might see it. Come on, let's say you might see the tangerine. Okay, you might talk to yourself about, oh, there's a funny little thing floating up above there. Oh, yes, for the auditories. Or you might even just feel it. Just feel it. Now, doesn't mean you got to keep checking on that thing every single moment while you're reading, because otherwise the reading's not going to be very effective. It simply gets you into an ideal state. Sports figures would call that relaxed alertness or the flow. Whatever we call it, it's that state of, oh yeah.
To go into the state is after a time no more so difficult when you learned it for a while. When you take a deep breath and all this relaxation goes to your body, so you calm down.
It's coming down to be in the moment, to forget about thinking about what you should be doing, to bring all your awareness down to exactly what you're doing, and this comes from just being aware of your senses and being in the flow.
Now, the next step Cheryl's going to take us into is, what's that second step of the system? You got it. All right.
All right, preview. All right, there's 3 parts to the preview. The first thing is to survey. What you want to do is it's like going out and just taking a look over what do you have. You look at the front cover, the back cover, the index, the table of contents. You read the last page, the last page, and the first page. May even have time to look at the foreword or the introduction. All right, so those are the preview things. So that would be survey. Those are the areas. Your purpose of that is to find the structure of the book, because the author will put key bits of information in certain places, and you want to know what that is. So you can easily find it. All right. Then you want to pull out trigger words. If your book is new to you, or the subject matter in your book is new to you, you may not know the vocabulary that the author is going to be using to describe the subject. So you want to be able to pull out trigger words. That is what you might put down on your mind map when you write down, when you're doing a preview and then also an activation later. Now, the reason, the value of these trigger words or phrases is that's how you formulate your questions you want all your answers to. Because it's very important to be able to ask the questions you want answered by the author, as if they're standing there or sitting there over a cup of coffee or a cup of tea, and you want to just have a conversation with them. You want your book to come alive, and you can do that with questions. Now, all the trigger words you put down on your page, you may not choose to go into any deeper review on, but there will be some that will definitely be critical and important to you. So some may fall to the wayside and others will surface as really important. And of course, that's all based on what? Your purpose. Your purpose, not the author's purpose for writing the book, but your purpose for reading the book.
You are going to photo read the book through a lens. And the lens is the purpose you have studied.
And then before you do anything else, you want to take a review, because at the time of the review, you can stop and decide what it is you've already discovered, check and see whether that information is going to be relevant and you believe the book is going to be relevant to your purpose, because then you get to decide what more you want from that book or not want from that book.
Now, this is step 3. This is the flip part. Is that we're going to take just a little bit more time to go into a bit more depth on the photo reading process. With photo reading, what happens is that so many people are not quite sure what's happening because we're moving this information into a different part of our mind. And as a result of that, the conscious mind gets finished with a photo reading process and it says, what just happened here? You know, I wasn't participating in this, and therefore, did anything just happen here when I was photo reading? Certainly one of the experiments that I used to set up for myself over and over again was how to allow that photo reading step of the system to be okay without my little voice coming in and starting to critique or judge what I had just done as being insignificant or unuseful or whatever. Quite honestly, this is one of the most, definitely unusual, but most useful of all steps of the system from my perspective. Because what it does is that it enters in this information as a whole. I do not have to, as I did in regular reading, start with one word at a time, and pretty soon I'd entered as many words as I could have, and I started dropping them out the back, and so I got to the end of the page, and I had absolutely no idea what I just read. This gives you the opportunity, and certainly gives your inner mind the opportunity to take the book in almost as a whole, so that your brain, then your inner mind, whatever you want to call the non-conscious part of you, can begin to create connections. And it is those neural connections inside that are being made, and I would say, because I believe that memory is cellular, that it is within your entire body, that's what gives you the ease when you start to activate and get the information back. So here we've got this opportunity to become familiar with the information in about 3 to 5 minutes. I mean, what more do you want out of reading? Now that you've done the preview that Cheryl was talking about, sometimes you refine your purpose. You don't really know, is this now what I think I want to get out of the book? And so my purpose may become more general, it may become more detailed at that point. But I am going to prepare my mind again. The next thing I'm going to do as a photo reader is know that I have different levels of relaxation that I can get to that are going to make a difference in how I process information. I cannot even conceive of picking up a book anymore without getting into that state of relaxed alertness as a minimum. Now, with photo reading, however, we are going to go one sort of level of relaxation deeper. So one of the things we talk about is that you can wire this up to 3 counts, 3, 2, 1. What happens then is you take a nice deep breath in, hold it and gently exhale, and then you just sort of let this wave of relaxation relax your entire body. So physically, you get to relax. And I'd photo read a book a day just for the fact that it allows me to stop what I'm doing and relax a little bit. And that's, by the way, wired up to the number 3. Then number 2, deep breath in, gently exhale, relax. That reminds me to bring my attention. Now this says, no now. Now, you're going to photo read. Relax. 2, relax. And then 1, I take another deep breath in. All that's saying is I can go to a resource level of mind. Now, some of you visualize easily. You might see a beautiful plant or flower. Some of you who hear well might be talking to yourself about what this place might look like. Some of you who are highly kinesthetic would feel this place of ultimate relaxation for yourself. Now, after you have given yourself that opportunity to relax, then the next thing that you do is you state and you say your affirmations, and that's where this lady's going to help you a little bit more with the affirmations for photo reading, and then you begin.
All right, the reason we want to talk about affirmations now is because I'll be leading you into the photo read with your photo reading book, with the book that you've selected, all right, so that you know the affirmations and you've heard them through my voice. So once we go through the 3, 2, 1 countdown, and you're in your resource level of awareness, then I will say these and you will listen to them and say them to yourself. As I photo read, my concentration is absolute. All that I photo read makes a lasting impression on my inner mind and will be available to me. And I usually say, as I desire, or something like that. Just so you know, I might add something to that. And I desire the information in this book, and you state the title and perhaps the author if that's important to you, for my purpose of, and then in your own words, you state your purpose. So those are the affirmations we'll be using. All right?
That sounds good to me.
All right. Photo focus. Yes, we just want to make sure we have the photo focus. Now, Lynette will have to demonstrate this again because with my holding the handheld microphone.
We're going to shift this very soon.
All right. So, we're going to look at both pages simultaneously. So, the way to do that, you look at all four corners, 1, 2, 3, 4, at the same time. All right?
Not round and round, just...
Yeah, so you're looking you're seeing them without looking at each corner individually. So you are just looking so you see all four corners. All right, and yes, the print will be out of focus. All right. And what else do we need to say? If you like to do this, you can actually pretend or you can imagine there is an imaginary X that connects the dots across the page. Now look for the white space as opposed to the print itself, because if you're looking at the white space, what is going into the inner mind? What is making the impression? It's a lot like a negative. All right. And that's it. Four corners, white space, looking simultaneously. Our eyes will be in a fixed position as opposed to sweeping the page down or left or right. So it's looking both pages simultaneously as if you're taking a picture.
You just see the four corners, and if you just see the lines in between, then you're in the ideal state.
And if you are familiar with the blip, you get this rather unusual third page right down the middle. It looks like a little blip of a page, and that's your photo focus.
The main thing is, if we can see the four corners, the information is going to go directly into the inner mind. So the next thing is page turning. The easiest way to do it, not the only way, the easiest way is simply to do a quick flick with your book, to get a little air between the pages, okay? And then as you're going up, you push with one thumb, go up, grab at the top, pull toward you. You're going to find that you actually can turn pages faster doing it that way. Now, how fast do you go is the big question, of course. And what we typically start people with is a rate of about 25,000 words per minute. And that is corresponding to a page turn every 2 seconds, which is why we say a page per second. Okay. Every 2 seconds, it's a nice turn. Now, if you use your chant as a marker or a pacer, that will work very well for you. So you might want to do it, relax, relax.
If you like musical intelligence and you like kinesthetic feel to the pages and you like the snapping of the pages, that'll all help you get into state and stay in state to maintain that steady state. And then, of course, in closing, you always affirm your mastery of the material, that you have that material in you and it is available to you.
These are just, by the way, the affirmations that come at the very end of the photo reading experience as well. I acknowledge all feelings acquired from the photo reading of the book and allow my inner mind to process them. It's also, I'm curious in how many ways this information is going to support me. You can use a variety of those kinds of affirmations, but for me, what that does is that when that little voice is doing all the, what'd you just do there? What'd you just do? You just flipped those pages. Did you get anything out of that? What this does instead is that it locks the information. It's like pressing save after I've typed a whole bunch of data into the computer. And I really like things saved. So my affirmations are telling my mind what I want to accomplish.
Because we also know that the first time we've all photo read is that we close the book and we go to that conscious part of our mind and we look for that information to be there. And it's not. So then we need to overcome that belief that it's not there, because of course it's not in the conscious mind, it's in the other than conscious or non-conscious mind, because that's what did the photo read.
All right, so are we ready to activate? Yes. Of course, because the fourth part of the system is all about activation. Because when we start this process, it's very important that we begin to pay attention to the minute little changes in our behavior, our results, what's happening with us, so that we can begin to experience some of the larger changes that also come into our lives as well. And so by noticing something, we say, I paid attention to this part, this gift that was given to me by my inner mind. And I say, yep, that really feels good, and I get to play with it and stay with it.
What I think is important for me is that improving this ability to listen when my inner mind sort of tells me to stop and take a look at what I need to know. And I'm learning to pick up those signals. And sometimes I don't do that always in normal activation sessions. I just go through and I pick stuff as a combination of my logical and intuitive mind. I still do that, but I'd like to have more intuition in the process.
Now sometimes I do an experiment with photo reading and nothing happens. And I get into this step called activation, and you'd think I'd never photo read the book. And at that point, it's time to own that experience that, wow, nothing did happen. Step back, say, so how am I going to do it in a different way next time? It's not about good, bad, or indifferent. It's about how am I going to do it a different way next time. Because experiments get to have different kinds of results. Sometimes your experiments really work. Sometimes your experiments really don't work. And that's simply the feedback that you get from those. What you want to be able to do, though, is continue to stay with that process, playing with it, and start the whole thing over again. So activation is about queuing up the associations that have already started to be connected inside of the brain as a result of your having photo-read that book. All right. So it's the queuing up of those associations that we really want to pay attention to. Now, we have a wide variety of ways to activate. One of the things that we can do is post-view. Cheryl alluded to that earlier today, that when sometimes we do a very shortened preview, and then after we photo read, we go into something else that we call a post-view. Now, what that really means is that we're taking a look, again, more of a survey. We're going after pretty much the same things as in the preview. And we'll talk about that in just a moment. We also are going to do incubation, which you did during your break, so you've already got that one handled. That's wonderful. Mind probing. Cheryl's going to talk about mind probing. She's also going to talk about mind mapping. We're going to do these a little bit out of sequence, and then I'm going to handle reading and dipping and also skittering. Those are all various ways that you can become very active with the material, that you can take ownership of what parts of this book, what words and thoughts of this author belong to you. Because you don't need all of them. Don't need all of them. But you want some of them. You want the ones that are important to your purpose. So again, we're right back to that central piece of purpose. How am I going to now get to a place where this is the next cut? This is the next purpose that I have to bring this information into, usefulness to me. Okay, so while I'm here, we're going to start, as I said, with this piece of previewing plus post-viewing. One of the things that Paul and Win Wenger then discussed and decided to incorporate in this class was, hey, maybe it's better to put the non-conscious information in first and then go to the preview. Because what happens is so many people do a preview, then they photo read. Then they think, oh, all that I know from this photo reading is what I got from the preview. Anybody ever thought that? Yeah. Okay. And so he says, if that's your trap, then you notice that. And you experiment with doing it in a couple of different ways. And one of the ways that you might do it in a different way is to keep your preview so short that basically you're doing the front and back flaps, table of contents. You're saying, yeah, this is the book for me. I think I want this, this, and this maybe, or I've got a quick purpose of it. And then I photo read. I put it all into my non-conscious mind, start those connections happening. Then what I do is, the next piece is that I come right after that and I post view. And the nice thing about this is that for those of us who need immediate gratification, we have something to do right after photo reading, which is really quite handy. And so there what we're doing is we're allowing ourselves anywhere from 6 to 12 minutes, depending on the size of the book, the complexity, and so forth. And we begin to do a little more intensive preview, but because it's after photo reading, we call it post view. Okay, what happens at that point then is that we might be looking at the front and back cover, we might be going through picking out more trigger words, we might be looking at more of the bold print, more of the chapter headings, but more than that, what we typically find ourselves doing in post-viewing is that we start looking at our trigger words or thinking about the kinds of questions that we want to handle later on in activation. And so with that as my setup, Cheryl's going to take us on into how do we set really good questions with mind probing.
After post viewing, and before you do any other activation, the incubation is a critical piece. And we recommend taking up to 24 hours for incubation. And I'm sure you've all had this experience where you have been working on something that's complex and you're trying to get it all put together and you want to get it done, but you get to a point where you're stuck in it. And so the best thing to do is to get away from it. So that's incubation, getting away from it. So it fits really nicely after photo reading and after the post view.
I think I found incubation really useful after I've given my inner mind an objective, a purpose to sort of tie everything together. When I like to post view almost immediately after I photo read, and that gives me an idea of what I want out of the book.
Always previously with regular reading, I worried that if I waited 20 minutes or 30 minutes between finishing the chapter from when I started it, that I wouldn't remember what it was I read at the beginning, and the end wouldn't make any sense to me. But now incubation allows for that information to percolate sort of through my brain cells, and I know that it's going to be available to me when I come back to it at a later date.
I've noticed that with the 24 hours of incubation, my mind seems to work better. It's almost as if it gels together.
After previewing or post-viewing, you will have a list of trigger words or a mind map with trigger words scattered around it. And that's where you get your mind-probing questions.
When I first took photo reading, as we found out long time ago, we really only used super reading and dipping. And what we found out was that, sometimes it's just what is really important. So as I go down, it's almost as though I can say, not this, not this, not this, not this. Aha, it's this that's important.
I was pretty surprised how easy it was to learn to super read and dip. It's amazing how you can kind of glide over the words and your mind will just stop when you see that word that you need.
Paul's metaphor originally for super reading and dipping was that of Superman flying over the planet, finding trouble in River City, swooping down, fixing the trouble, not deciding to set up long-term housing projects at that point, but getting up and flying on. That's a great metaphor. And in different countries that I've been in, we've had everything from pelicans looking for the fish delight of the day, going down and getting it, to snorkelers, to being in the supermarket and knowing that you don't have to look through every single head of lettuce if all you came in for was a can of soup. So lots of different ways of approaching this, but all of them, it's How do I get to the essence? How do I get to those points, those particular answers to the questions that I have asked? In other words, those mind probes that I have put in place are going to be leading me to my answers. The better my questions, the better my activation, every single time.
I really was shocked that once you start to force your mind to photo read, just kind of push it over the edge, how much easier it is to read just at twice the regular reading speed that you read before, and still get just as much out of it.
Now, there are certain times when you really need more detail. You're not going after essence. You're not going after just the answers to 1 or 2 or 3 questions. Instead, you have to have a more uniform level of detail. And it may be, as Cheryl was alluding to earlier, that you're taking a test on a particular chapter in a book. Or it may be that you're reading something that is a protocol. And I used to teach a lot of nuclear power plants. Very important for those people not to miss a step. I really don't want the people that are handling any of the nuclear power in this country to miss a step. So, sometimes the level of detail is more important than at other times. So what we have to offer, and again, Dr. Bennett and I will be talking about the various forms of activation later on this week. But one of the most important things is how we can go about skittering to take in a more comprehensive understanding of a particular chapter, a particular section, or an entire book if we choose to do so. If this is a paragraph, nice long paragraph, what we would do is we would rhythmically peruse. That's moving along the top of the sentence, like that. And then we would, feeling like we have that topic sentence, that first sentence, we would go through and pick up a word, 2 words, 3 words, randomly through the rest of the paragraph. And as long as we had a sense that we knew what this particular sentence was saying to us, we'd be fine. We'd be fine. And we could trust that our non-conscious mind, with the photo reading, laid down before the skittering, was going to help us hold, remember, utilize this information. And you can play around with it. I know that Dr. Bennett will give us lots of different, ways that you can do it in a circular pattern, in a zigzag, whatever. For me, the random pattern seems to work very well, so that's obviously what I use. We use what works well for us. And I think that that's the important thing for you to remember, too, is to find what works. If something isn't, how are you going to adapt it so that it does? So, how many of you are willing to try a little skittering? All right.
Now, what I wanted to wrap up for Lynette is we did those two together so that we have a contrast between what super reading and dipping is and skittering. So you see that there's 2 ways to do that. And of course, you all know as far as being photo readers is that you want a whole flexible range of reading speeds. From rhythmic perusal, which we already talked about, which we akin to regular reading or similar to regular reading, only more fluid. And then we've got our super reading and dipping, and then we have skittering if we need more detail. All right. And then we'll move into rapid reading, which is actually closer to the photo reading process. Now for me, photo reading, the whole system came together with the mind mapping process. I'm a kinesthetic. I'm very good with spatial layout. So it really was what helped me know when I know something from a book.
I love mind mapping.
Mind mapping's great. It gives you a different way of activating.
This was one of them that I did during the Power Day. Kind of like purpose up here, trigger words.
You could organize in a different way, in a spatial way, what the steps are, so you can just look at it and see it.
And the mind map is going to be a living document, updated every time you need it.
All of the different concepts, different colors. It's just fun. It's just so quick and effective that I love it.
The title goes in the center, then you radiate all key ideas around it, and we recommend that you use as few words as possible on your lines here. And the purpose of that is so that this becomes a trigger to everything you know about that piece.
I think the mind map is going to be overall the absolute best because it incorporates, so much, the writing down and thinking about it and using the different colors. So I'm going to try to mind map as much as I possibly can so it becomes just second nature and I get used to it.
Now, if we divided this room into two groups, and one group was given 100 animals to memorize, we take the other group and we say to you, we want you to take those 100 animals and categorize them into meaningful arrangements. How do those animals fit together? Now I say, okay, today is test day. You do the test. Which group do you believe has more of those animals memorized? That group, because they've done this. They've organized and integrated the material so that it's meaningful and it has relationship.
So here we are. We've got this amazing tool called mind mapping, which is going to give us an opportunity to hold in place those kinds of ideas that really matter to us. And they're going to be such an interesting little hook that we're going to be able to remember them for a long, long time.
Now, the fifth step of the process is rapid reading. It comes at the end of the whole mind reading system after prepare, preview, photo read, and all the activation steps that you've done. It is the most like regular reading in the sense that when you do this on, say, an entire book, it is from beginning through the book all the way to the end. So it's more like regular reading. However, you don't put the book down until you're done with a rapid read. So it's not like pleasure reading where you may read for a little while and then go, oh, I'm going to go eat dinner or whatever, and then you come back and pick it up later and read some more. Rapid reading is from beginning to all the way to the end in one sitting. It's very flexible because you've already photo-read this book. You've already super-read and dipped sections. You may have already skittered sections. You may have rhythmic perusal some of these sections. So it will look as if you're photo-reading at times. It'll look like you're super-reading and dipping. It may be skittering, just looking at the topic sentence and allowing your eyes to jump around. All right, and then super reading again. It may be photo reading because obviously you will have a high level of understanding of the book if you've been through all 4 sections before you do your rapid read. Because as long as you have a strong purpose for your rapid read, then that is a valid reason to rapid read. Now, as a new time photo reader, it might be valid to rapid read something in order to validate that you got everything through your activation steps and onto your mind map. So there's steps. The more you get confident as a rapid reader or as a photo reader and more confident in your activation, you'll know whether you need to rapid read or not. And you can let go at the time when you're done. We recognize that flexibility is the key to the whole mind reading system, is being able to take these steps, all of the steps, and being able to use them as they are designed and also as they suit your needs and your purpose.
And I think the key that got unlocked, that unlocked the door for me this week was that you can use those in lots of different combinations. There's no one right way to read. Here's a whole bunch of tools, and maybe you need to read something like a novel that you just want to enjoy and brisk through. There are certain ways you would activate that. On the complete other end of the spectrum, maybe there's a technical book that's very rich in detail that you really need to get every word of. And you have to use a lot more of the activation tools and spend a lot more time to get the detail, more time being a relative thing, I guess, to someone who photo reads. But between those two broad ends of the spectrum, there are lots of different tools and lots of different ways that I now have at my disposal that I can use to activate a book and to get the pieces and parts out of the book that I want.
Now I just want to talk about levels of comprehension because this level series of hierarchical steps of activation, of comprehension fit nicely with the steps of the whole mind reading system. If you don't know anything about a book, the prepare step helps you get awareness, all right? And the preview step helps you get awareness. Because in that, you start to know a little bit about the subject matter. You don't know a lot yet, but you know something. And from there, you get to decide whether it's relevant or important to you. And then after you photo read the book and the materials, then we say you're getting to the level of familiarity. And it usually becomes obvious at the point when you go back in and start activating material. Because it's then you're going, this seems familiar. Yes, that I get a sense of that. I'm getting to understand that. And that would come after photo reading. And that's your familiarity. Then knowledge really takes place, and it seats itself, as I like to say, when you've done your activation steps. Now, activation steps are layering, in the sense that after you photo read and you want deeper and deeper knowledge and greater detail, you can do 15 minutes, 20 minutes, a half an hour of activation. Break state, come back, identify what more you want from the book or material, and then you can do another break state. Another activation step. And you do as many of those. And we do say that it's best to do your activation steps in 20 minutes and 20 minutes to 30-minute segments, as long as you can stay focused and concentrated while you're learning the material.
Being able to really concentrate on activation, now that's probably the strongest part of what I do in photo reading, and I'm much more confident now that after I go through the process with a book, whichever of the many paths I take, whether it's for a lot of detail or just a quick brush through, I feel a lot more confident now that I'm going to have what I want at the end. And that's something I didn't have before. Before it was almost like, discovery. Am I going to get something out of it this time or not? And now I feel like, hey, this is the thing that I can do every time and get really substantial material out of the book at the level that I'm looking for.
And then you develop the level of high expertise with the information. And expertise is application, being able to know that you can take that material that you are learning and apply it in the way that you choose to apply it. And that's what expertise is. And rapid reading can be the fine-tuning of the application process, so that you know you can go out and do it. So awareness is the first level of comprehension. Familiarity is the next. Knowledge is the third one, which is when you pick it up in activation. And then expertise is the application, and that would be rapid reading. And you can do as many activations as you need and want on any type of material that you have.
I was not using all the tools at my disposal. I was just doing part of the process and not doing a good job of activating after I prepared and previewed and photo read.
You can take a highly information-dense text, and it provides you with a method of layering your learning of that text.
Before it seemed like I did this step and I did this step, and then hopefully at some point in time some gold nuggets would pop out.
You can go through it the first day, preview it, photo read it, set it aside, let it incubate, not worry about it, not feel all tied up about the fact that you didn't get anything or you did get anything.
Now I know what I want to get at the end of my process, and I can use all of these different tools, which ones are going to be best to get me there.
Come back the next day, preview it, photo read it, do some super reading and dipping if you wish, or photo read it 2 or 3 more times, and every day pick up more and more information as you go through.
Depending on the complexity of the material and how much I want out of it, I can go anywhere from about a third of the time to I've finished books normally would take me 10 hours and 30 minutes.
Hoping versus knowing is a very big difference.
In 5 years, I want to be done with law school, starting my law career, well on my way to partnership at a firm.
All these things are sort of coming together for me, and I realize that if I shift the focus of my own photo reading practice a little, I can actually improve the results quite dramatically. And I think that this is just the beginning, really.
spend probably a little too much of my time at the office, although I really enjoy my job, love my work. I think I'm looking for photo reading to take some of that work that I do at the office and get through it quicker so that I have more time to spend at home and doing things that, round out my life.
I tend to do a lot of photo reading around philosophy and quantum physics, and it's basically just trying to maybe be one of those people that are getting closer and closer to what it's all about.
I'm currently working on a dissertation. Without photo reading, I must say I would never have taken this on, and I'm really relying on the process to bring together all this stuff.
What happens is your life becomes this magnificent syntopic reading where things are all relating to what? What's central to all the books that you read? You and your? Yes, it is your purpose. Your purpose is living your life. Anybody tells you you should live somebody else's life, thank them very much and ask, what does that have to do with you? Well, you don't understand. You should be thinner. No, you should be heavier. No, you should be taller. No, you should be shorter. No, you should be smarter. No, you should do this. Should do that. Thank you very much. What does that have to do with me? I appreciate your opinion, but I'm living my life. And you know what? I've been on purpose all my life. I've never not been on purpose. And your reading becomes a mirror to reflect what that purpose is. Discover it. Find the white rabbit that's been leading you along here.
The problem that I have wished to solve in cancer is to develop a biochemical method of diagnosing cancer early in the disease as opposed to waiting for the tumor to get large enough to be felt or seen. In talking to the people here at the course, many of them have said to me, well, gee, this is kind of interesting work you do. Go back and read 5 books in the area, or read 5 books directly related and 2 books that are sort of peripherally related, and don't bother to activate them and see what happens.
So I picked up all these books off the library, photo-read all of them, and then I went to a professor who happened to be the world expert on the subject and told him what I knew. He was impressed enough that he's now my supervisor.
When we graduate, we're not finished as doctors. It's an ongoing process of learning. And besides that, we have to be up to date. So that's why now with all our lectures and demonstration seminars that we have in our own medical field, it'll be so much easier to get all that information and quicker.
I think it's the ability to know things, the ability to see everything at one go, process all that information, and produce a solution to problems that we face. So effectively, if we can tap like the full potential, I believe that we can solve problems way faster than we are doing right now.
Syntopic reading, bar none, will train you of the importance of purpose in reading. Think about it. Where do you want to go with this? How expert do you need to be in a changing society? Just moving faster, we can even pay attention to it. Syntopic reading's the way to go.
I spent a lot of time just being in the office, traveling, coming back home at night, and at night I just want to kick back for a little while, but it's already 10 o'clock at night when I get back home, and it's time to get up and start over again.
And I have friends in St. Thomas that I hardly see, because I don't have the time to go out and, to have dinner with people. People say, look, let's get together for lunch. I say, I'd love to, but...
It's kind of a rut I'm not happy with.
So this will help me free up time by enabling me to get through the stuff that I need for my work in a lot less time.
Photo readings really helped me, but it's gotten to the point where I need to bring everything together, and that's been a challenge for me in the last week or so. And now with syntopic reading, I can just bring everything down, and I know I can do it in a day.
Now there are a couple of phases to this. You survey the field, you look through a whole bunch of books, maybe 20, 30 books. You establish a purpose. You locate 4 or 5, I'm going to say 5 or 6 on a single subject. You preview and photo read all the books. Now it's time to syntopically read. You're going to create a large mind map, kind of a framework, and we're going to then fill in that framework. There's going to be a couple of components to this syntopic reading activation. The first step is to activate in order to find passages that relate to your central purpose. You're then going to notice and identify similarities among all of the authors from all of the books. You're going to be writing those down kind of like trigger words all around the outside frame of your mind map. Then you're going to discover differences. This is when they're all talking about similar things, but they have different opinions on this.
Many people go through a book and they'll end up getting questions by the way they're reading. You know, that if they read it word for word, they'll come up with different questions and stuff like that. But with the photo reading, you know, you're going in with a purpose. You know, some people go in for books to pull out purposes of what they want out of the book. You know, with photo reading, you're going in there with a purpose.
In the future, when I photo read the books for each book, I want to have a clear purpose of what I want to get out of it, so I have a better idea of which book I want to activate.
Up till now, I haven't had a clear enough purpose. It still worked really great, but when I formulate my purpose and I photo read, I found that it comes together so quickly.
A person can communicate to you because of similarities. You learn the uniqueness of another person by sorting for differences. When we get to sorting for differences among these different authors, that's when we start writing some key points. As they speak to this particular theme, what does this one say compared to that one? This is enriching your mental model of this particular subject and how the subject relates to your purpose.
I tend to try to be a bit of a perfectionist, and that's not helpful. And it's funny because those are the kinds of things that, you know, people think are good, that you want to be perfect, but it doesn't work, and it actually holds you back.
Try not to go so sequentially in terms of, oh, I got to go through the first chapter before I get to any place else. The idea of activation, very often I'll start on chapter 3, 4, or 5 with my first activation pass. Because usually an author introduces a concept and then gets into their unique position around chapter 3, 4, or 5. So I almost never start on the first chapter. I'll look at the ending in 3, 4, or 5 before I go digging very far into the first chapter. Okay, here we go. Get into state. Fixed point of attention at the top back part of your head. And begin. What we just did is a photo reading version of the first round of syntopic reading. Normally we would take 45 minutes for round 1. What we started doing at the end of several of our classes around the world is we started adding an abbreviated syntopic reading session with books that we had photo read throughout the course. And what we would do is we take the photo reading book and we take the Einstein Factor, we take a novel, we take other books, we put them in the table, and we do the giant mind map, and we'd say, my purpose is to fully integrate the photo reading whole mind system into my life. What do each of these books say to that? Now here's an interesting idea. What if you added to your pile of books something totally unrelated, a book on golf, a book on interpersonal communications? Do you see how suddenly, metaphorically, that could relate in a way, couldn't it?
I'm going to use it more in my own medical field for a start. Then, of course, I'm going to get a variety of subjects and topics which I've always been interested in but never had a time to look at. For example, metaphysics, spirituality, golfing, and sports of different kinds. I'd be interested in international politics, entrepreneurship, real estate, and look at all these different subjects so that I can get some information and then sort it out for my benefit and again for the benefit of others if I can help them too.
It's okay that you get to a point in this process and you go, a couple of these books are like not even close to what I want to spend any time on. You could bring in a different book altogether and it works great.
I discovered that a lot of the books seem redundant and kind of, some of them start saying the same things, and you really have to go back, I think, and activate more of the books instead of just one to get different ideas, because some books just focus on one thing and then there's a lot of things that you want to learn and you need more time with other books.
Here's the other thing that's very interesting about it, is you've mind mapped these books with respect to this purpose. What would happen if you suddenly changed your purpose to another purpose? What's fascinating is that each of the books suddenly opens up to you in a new way. You're not limited to just the purpose that you activated on. And so there's an exercise we do in the photo reading course called the group discussion document, where we give out the same article to everyone, and then you get into small groups and each person takes a different assignment to activate it for 7 minutes. So you're going to look at it for the presenting problems. You're going to look at it for the main argument, where they're coming from. You're going to look at it from the perspective of solutions that are offered or not offered. You're going to look at it from something else. And when you put your mind maps together, you know exactly what the other person was talking about as they speak.
Saying words, putting words on feelings, on ideas, on concepts is a wonderful way to activate.
The activation happens when I speak to people and mind map, when I output, so to speak.
We brought this into corporations. Phenomenal. For the first time in the history of some of these departments, when they made decisions that are making it from a position of truly shared knowledge. Most of the time, people come into meetings, are not prepared. What we show you is you can preview and photo read the night before. 7 minutes before the meeting, you could activate for your purpose and your purpose alone. You go into the meeting, and you know what everybody's talking about, and you can actually even direct the meeting because you know more about that article than anybody else in the room, just from those few minutes. Between 11 and 13 minutes, you can have any corporate document absolutely within you ready to go.
I photo-read and did the direct learning of all the books in the areas that I had to be proficient in order to manage. And as a result of that, the company excelled, and I became the youngest executive.
We're looking for common themes. If you already have the common themes, in other words, what all of the authors seem to be talking about with respect to this subject, then what you're going to start looking for are key points that this book makes about that theme and differentiate it from what this author says about that theme. Maybe they're saying the same thing, but maybe they have different opinions about it. Now here's where it gets interesting. Now we're starting to discover issues. Differing opinions. Now the sorting for differences is going to start opening your mental model of what this subject is about. This is where syntopic reading really comes in. And where are you with your purpose in the middle? You're going to make your own decision about this subject area. This is where real innovation can happen. I designed a recording called Dream Play. In order to do that, I syntopically read 19 books on the subject of dreaming.
Two people that I met and were writing a book and had asked me to help them with that. And they had put together some guidelines for the book on how they wanted to structure it, and both of them and I as well were really struggling with the current structure of the book. It just wasn't working.
You know, when you pick up a book, you really want to read it, but sometimes you don't understand it straight off. When I go through the process of activation, with the incubation, the answers will come to me. Those answers will come to me in terms of, you know, what is my level of comprehension at present?
All of the books, every single one of them, a similarity between all of the authors is they all talked about how to remember your dreams. So I made a note. This is a theme, a common theme, a similar theme. There's some different words. I kept putting those kinds of words around the outside edge.
I sat down and I photo-read 18 books over that weekend and about maybe 50 articles in different magazines. 18 of the 19 books said, here's how you analyze your dreams. One of the books said, under no circumstances should you ever write down in order to analyze your dreams. And so I got it. This difference that was being presented expanded my model of what it means to remember and analyze dreams. And I got to decide what I was going to do with that, which means I'm synthesizing these authors' ideas to apply it to my own purpose, and I create, here's my version. And immediately after that, the next morning, I woke up Monday morning and I just had the whole book was right in front of me.
Activation, when it works perfectly, that's when you don't ask yourself, how do I access the question? How do I access the information? You just have the information that's there. Just pick it up.
I bought a Spanish-English, English-Spanish dictionary, and I thought I'd just try for fun. I always want to learn Spanish fluently, and so I just started photo reading, and I think I did it for 2 or 3 weeks. I photo read it every day, along with a regular dictionary and a thesaurus, and it just kind of made sense all of a sudden.
The tendency is to focus too narrowly. You start drilling in a little bit more. Still, stay light on your feet. Ask a question. Write down the theme as a question, and then start freenoting on it. Start image streaming on it. Start asking yourself, which of these authors speaks to this in this way? Play with some different activation techniques. Don't rely just on rhythmic perusal here, gang. You got a lot more tools in your pack. To get these themes and start to identify these issues, are you going to go back to the books, or are you just going to scan your own head? The answer is yes. There's going to be kind of an interplay between those. You're going to try to make your own assumptions about that, but then check it out with respect to the different authors. So a theme is any issue that 2 or more authors seem to be saying are relevant not only to the subject area you're studying, but to the particular purpose you have here. Stay light on your feet. Don't try to figure out the book. Do not try to figure out the book. What you're trying to do is figure out how these authors guide you in speaking to your purpose. Patricia Danielson, the first certified instructor ever for photo reading outside of Learning Strategies organization, wanted to know more about reading comprehension.
The benefit for me to improve my reading is in business. I want to figure out, certain things. For instance, how to manage my business better.
So she got 5 books on the subject.
I'm able to, go to the library, pick out 5 books on managing, and photo read them.
Did a syntopic reading, called up Harvard University, got a hold of some professors there who would be willing to talk to her about the subject.
And able to find out certain key points that other people have found that successes in their business.
She went in, sat down with them and said, I have a couple of questions for you about comprehension and reading. Here's what I know, here's my question, and their jaws dropped. I said, how many years have you been studying the subject? She said, actually a couple of days. And in those couple of days, about an hour and a half. And they said, this is unbelievable.
and you can consume an incredible amount of information in a short time.
So you want to still stay pretty fast on your feet. Remember, there could be one of the authors jumping up and down over there in the corner. You got to get over to it and ask that author what he wants to tell you. Because that author's got the answer to the question that you have. Keep refining your questions. Questions become absolutely crucial at this point. It's not the words on the page. The questions you ask are going to activate these books for you. So get good questions. The questions now that we're starting to generate is around these different themes that are coming up. When you find a good response by any one of these authors, make a note of it, like a little mind map around that book. Be careful. Are you mind mapping the book? No. What are you mind mapping? Exactly right. So keep coming back to that. Do we have one theme per book? Like if you have 5 books, you have 5 themes? No. There could be 2 themes. There could be 3 themes for all 5 or 6 books. If all of your books are the same author, then I made a mistake and didn't clarify that it's really a rich experience by having different authors. Do you have all the same authors? Okay, then we're going to make your life an experiment around this, and we're going to find out the answer to that question. What's interesting is many authors, me included, change their views as time goes on.
Suddenly, everything seemed to open up, and there was an immense amount of mental clarity and thought, and suddenly I was, as if it was that somebody or something was guiding me towards that objective. And I could feel that my conscious mind was not in the picture at all. It was the non-conscious mind was coming. And at the same time, I was feeling in the background that my conscious mind was trying to take over.
When I was in there just doing this syntopic reading, and so many things were coming to me, I just was like sitting there and I was in awe. I just couldn't believe it. And I just felt that my eyes were being guided to the pages, and when I got on the page, my eyes were being guided exactly where to go, and it would be like something in my head would be, stop, go over here, and I really felt the power of my inner mind.
Are we set? We're ready to do the Power Day?
Well, the Power Day was the central day for me, because the Power Day was the day I discovered my rabbit, as it were.
The Power Day, you photo read a number of different books in 4 different rounds, like anywhere from 3 to 5 or 7 books in each round.
Let's get into this. The first thing that you have to understand is there's going to be some setup to make this happen. Then what we're going to have is a little bit of a preparation, personally. Then there's going to be a photo reading of 5 to 7 books. Then there's going to be a post view of one of those 5 to 7. And then we're going to finish with an integration. We're going to do 4 rounds of the Power Day. As far as the setup goes, there are 6 subjects that have been chosen. Personal growth, metaphysics and spiritual literature, healing, health and fitness, business management, strategies and insights, learning, memory, creativity, wealth and prosperity. You're going to be taking 4 of those subjects, so be thinking about which of those 4 you would most like out of the 6.
The Power Day is actually something I do very often in my school life. I pile all the books together and I photo read them and activate them all at once.
Now, here's this magnificent stack of stuff. And you're like a kid in a candy store, aren't you? When we used to go to the library when our kids were little, it was funny how they started getting an idea of what the library really meant. I remember when my second son, John, was at the library and we were picking out books, and he'd get a book out of the pile and he'd hold it like this. And he'd bring it to us and he'd say, "Can I buy this one?" And I said, "Oh no, honey, we don't buy the books here." And he'd get really sad and he'd go put the book back, I realized what he just figured out was happening. I said, oh no, sweetie, you can have this. But we don't buy it. They just give it to us for 3 whole weeks. And he went, you know, how does that work? but what my kids used to do when we'd go to the library as they got more proficient with this is they'd get interested in a subject. They'd just take the shelf out of the library of all the books on that subject and fill boxes and bags with books. So it really, I mean, that's what it's like. You know, you're a kid in a candy store, you got all these books. Imagine the energy in all those books, all of the years, all of the intention, all of the references. I mean, one book could cite 200 references, couldn't it? That means that the energy of those other 200 authors, with all the energy of all the authors they reference, is all focused now. But now out of that, let your intuition pick 5 to 7 books. So what you're going to do is you're going to pick up your 5 to 7 books out of there. You're also going to grab a partner. And you're going to go sit down with your partner at one of the close by tables. Now you need to understand that only 2 of the books have to be super powerful. Boy, I really want these books. The other 5 can be marginally interesting to you. What you're then going to do is you're going to preview the first book in your stack that you choose to preview. You've got 1 minute. After that minute, you're going to write down the title, the author, the copyright date of the book. Consider your purpose. In what ways do you feel this particular book can support you in accomplishing your purpose? And then what you're going to do is you're going to photo read that first book. Photo read as rapidly as you want. Charlotte said, hey, let's play, let's do the photo flipping. Cheryl goes flip, 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 flip. I go flip, flip, flip. Doesn't matter how you do it. Find a way that works for you. You're going to photo read that book. After doing your closing affirmation, refine your purpose if necessary, and now do that same process with all the rest of your books.
The first round for me was really getting my mind back into gear, and it was an experiment to see how it would react when I had a very clear purpose.
It really did feel like a lot of information was going into my mind, and it felt that my inner mind or my brain was trying to juggle it all and put it all together.
Generally, out of 10 books, 2 of them are going to be fabulous for you. Out of 5 books, 1 is usually going to be fabulous for you. So out of these 5 to 7, you don't have to know ahead of time which one is going to be the one. You know how it goes? Sometimes your unconscious mind has a sense of humor. It needs to get a message through to you that you're not willing to ask for yourself. You know how that works? It knows better what you need to pay attention to. So trust the process. Trust the energy of this process to guide you to the things that you absolutely need.
During the second session, and just all of a sudden I began to feel a sense of an emotional kind of a welling up. The book was called E equals MC2. It was about Einstein and about Einstein's discovery of the forces that bind the nucleus of an atom together, and then how that led to other discoveries, and that led to the production of the atom bomb. And then I had a sense of just seeing how things were just how things came together, and for me that was rather incredible.
And I picked up about 5 or 6 books on different things that just seemed to call to me. And the very last book, which was a book by Gary Zukov called Seat of the Soul, I zipped through that one.
I felt that the books that I photo read and then had the opportunity to activate for those 15 minutes, that I felt like I really owned the material in the book. I had some technical books, Competitive Strategy by Michael Porter.
And I found a huge amount of emotion. I picked that book to spend the 30 minutes of activation and writing the questions on at the end, and this is where all that came up. I wrote all these questions. You're supposed to come up with questions, right? You write your trigger words, and then you come up with questions that you want answered if you were to spend more time with it, or just questions that would lead you to understand more about what's in the book.
I flipped through it, photo read it, and then mind mapped it.
When I was so drawn into reading this book, I was in such a state. I was seeing sections like this big in the writing. I'm seeing this, and I'm seeing it all. I understand it all as I go through. I was seeing this much. It was amazing. I've never had that happen before. Very cool.
And I lost that whole feeling of, a business textbook or a business book being a daunting thing.
What are the things you've got to do between each book? Recommend. Emotional stress release. Remember this one? Fingers on the frontal eminences in your hands here. Okay? Sit back down, do the next book. Pay attention to yourself. Don't overdrive this. That's not the idea.
I'm in the middle of round 4 right now, and I've done about 6 books per round, 5-6 books per round, and discovered some very interesting things.
Paul makes a great point about pushing into the dive. And I felt when I heard what he wanted us to do on the Power Day, I felt that that's what he was actually going to do, is he was going to force us, by giving us such a wealth and weight of material to cover, he was going to force us to abandon all these preconceived notions that we had, and we were just going to start flipping through, photo reading, to the point where there was so much material there that you would give up consciously.
The breakthrough was when I just released and I let go, and I didn't try consciously to activate anymore. I just let go, and I said, if it doesn't work, then that's okay. And as soon as I accepted that, my subconscious mind took over, and I just felt that the activation, everything started working.
Have you ever heard me say that photo reading is like drinking through a fire hose? What you're asking your neurophysiology to do is profound.
In terms of just going for so many books and just for one purpose, and to do that 3 times, 4 times in one day, wow, I mean, it's fantastic.
Paul had told us the day before when he was setting it up that we were going to read between, 24 to 30 books. And I thought, oh boy, that's going to be, smoke coming out of your brain. I wanted to do it, and I pretty much said, oh, if everybody else here can do it, I can do it too. Well, it turns out that I only did 18 books. And at the end of the day, I was satisfied with what I had done, but yet I was disappointed because Paul had said, 24 to 30, and I'm thinking, no, I did 18, this is not good.
I probably photo read 20, 25 books, activated 4 or 5 of them, and that much learning is something that people, even a college student, wouldn't do in a month. We've done it in a day.
So I happened to talk to one of my friends late last night, and I told her you know, I only did 18 books. And the phone went dead. She said, 18 books in one day, and you're not happy with that? It takes me 18 days to read one book, and I don't even remember what happened in chapter 1 by the time I get to the end.
It sort of gives you the impetus to do it on your own, just to see what happens.
Doing intensive sessions of photo reading will benefit me after leaving the retreat by reinforcing the habits that and techniques that I've learned here, and also the brain being like any other portion of the body. When it's exercised, it will become better at the task to which it's assigned. Just like when you move your arm up and down with the weight in it, your muscle gets bigger. I think your brain lays down tracks or opens up tracks that may already be there for the distribution of information by exercising those distribution channels.
What you're asking your nervous system to do just with this one round is more than most people in human history have done. Today is a powerful day.
We're basically given so much information to our neurophysiology, and I'm just looking forward to the changes that are going to take place. And it's basically allowing those changes to happen.
We get to go home and the test really begins now. Are we going to follow through? Are we going to succeed with our goals? And we can say yes here, but we have to follow through.
What's the message that I need to take home? You know, what do I need to take from these books? I photo-read and activated 4 areas, but there's a message out of all of them that I need to accept now.
Just reinforces my desire to go back and start hogging these books off the shelf.
There are, I'd say, probably 200 books in my library at home.
I have a whole office full of molecular biology and biochemistry books.
And I bet there are at least 40 of them that I have a bookmark in chapter 1, chapter 1 and a half, chapter 2, and I get bored with it.
When I have a question, I look in the index and try to find the page. Now I get to go back and I get to go through the whole pile, just page at a time.
If I can feel like I can take a book, get through it in 30 minutes, get out of it what I need, it just seems like it's freedom from feeling like I'm underneath this pile of information.
The sim topic is probably going to be my biggest success story of it all. I have enough ideas and enough notes that I'm going to be able to take it home and play with it.
What I'd like you to do is make a summary of 2 things. Number 1 is, what is your next step for the reading material that you brought with you? What is your very next step when you leave here tonight for the reading material that you brought with you? What do you want to do with it? Where are you going with it?
I really felt that I was just able to tell my subconscious mind, show me the information, tell me what page, tell me where to look, and it was just following it was just guiding me the whole way through.
I think that the ability of the unconscious mind is limited by the ability of the conscious mind to access the unconscious mind.
Second is, what's your next step in terms of your development as a photo reader?
You can carry it with you if you remember and stay focused on what you're achieving in the next couple of months.
I think this experience was just a confirmation of what I know the unconscious mind can do. I see it every day in my school life. I rely on it daily, really, to provide me with the information that I need. It's a leap of faith leaving an essay to the last 2 hours and getting it through, but I've seen it happen so many times, I just trust the process.
I believe I feel the power of photo reading, and I'm really excited to go home and to do a lot more photo reading on my own and to do some topic reading and all the things we learned at this seminar.
It's a challenge almost to talk about this because it's so much a part of my life. I can't really tell you what changes it's made. It's just so much of me now.
And just things like, hey, I want to write a book when I get to be a certain age, or maybe I want to teach at a university. Those types of things now are sort of almost like options that I had taken as my dreams and set them up on a shelf because I'd never have time to get it all done. And now I really feel like I can get it all done.
Okay, my syntopic reading was on the work that I do, which is basically in the areas of behaviors and values. I had 5 books that I thought I needed more information of, and my purpose was, what do I need to get still? What do I not know yet about DISC and values? And in my mind, I'm thinking about applying it to my business and to my clients. So I'm going around, I'm doing it, it's going pretty quick, and each book I'm like, I know this, I know this, I know this. So I started getting a little bored, and then I'm like, wait a minute, what do I really need to be applying this to? I said, I need to define my purpose. And what pops into my head is a personal relationship. And I go, duh, here I am supposedly the expert on this, but I'm not even applying it in my own life. So I defined that purpose, and all of a sudden when I went through again and I was intuitively doing it, what do I need to do? I was going exactly to the page I needed to read about this interpersonal relationship that I'm struggling with. So soon, all of a sudden, that became the theme, and then I really concluded with where I'm at on the different models, which of course I already knew, where he is on the model, which I already knew, but I never thought that's what I needed to do with this syntopic reading. So it came alive for me that that was my whole purpose, and it wasn't about what I thought it was.
First of all, this is the last thing I like to do is stand in front of people. I like small groups. Okay, all right. That's why I need my paper here for my security blanket, I think. Okay, I chose 5 books, and for me as a coach and trainer, I asked the question, what do I need to build a better warrior? And it was quite interesting. They came from a lot of different directions at first, changing destructive thoughts, follow-up procedures. The brain is like a muscle. Does that relate? And then one thing came to mind after I saw a word. It just popped over to something that I put in something that we had done earlier, that where we sat and we just read and read, talked and talked and talked and talked, and the other person was drawing. Well, one of those pictures popped into my mind, and it was one of birds flying around in circles, actually not flying but falling, and they're going around in circles, and then pretty soon the wings are out and they're free. And it was kind of interesting because that, together with the brain being like a muscle, when I opened the book, it said meaningful inspiration. It's kind of interesting. Another book said changing destructive thoughts and follow-up procedures. Well, that came together as lift mental fog. And when I put all of these things together, they came out to be, and I did everything totally random. In fact, Vic over there, I just picked the dictionary up and I opened it up, and it said content. And so this is how it came out. I'm to use, in order to build a better warrior, I'm to use my intuition and my manifestation to balance it all. I'm supposed to use my conscious direction and focus and my balance to manifest. I'm supposed to use the conscious direction of focus and the design of training and mindset to peg, which it said, like in a violin, it's tighten or loosen. So that kind of made sense. And then the design and training and mindset in combination with the book that had meaningful inspiration came out to be, well, that was the one, Heart's Content. And then the one that came out, meaningful inspiration and lifting the fog, was to avoid extremes
ability to be moderate, and to use wisdom and integrity. So that was very strange. I want to say one more thing too, that bit about the birds, that was kind of fluky, because that brought me back, that kept bringing me back, and things have been going on kind of strange over the last couple of weeks. And can I do this? Can I say this? I had a competitor in Salt Lake City a week ago, and I was there, and no, probably not. Oh, okay. Actually have two athletes, two elite athletes, one of which is in a position to 50-50 position to be the only representative to the Olympics in trampoline. So, at any rate, we're trying to plow through this. This girl is very complicated. I've had her since she was 7 years old. She's 24 years old now, and she is an aerospace engineer with NASA. And I'm coaching her. Go figure. And at any rate, she's so cerebral, and I was standing there watching her do her routine, and I'm just like, oh my God, oh my gosh. The first three skills that she did were just like, where'd that come from? And then the fourth skill was like, what was that? And she only did 4 skills. And I'm like, I don't understand this. What is the deal? And the thing that pulled me back to this instance was Paul this morning talking about embrace your power. I told that girl, among other things, to, do certain exercises and conditioning. I told her then, right then and there, to embrace her power. So that was just a real fluke to me to have you do that. And then, of course, all this coming together, everything came together for me. My son called this afternoon, and he was having some problems. And I said, Nathan, you got to embrace your power. He says, Mom, I don't have any power. I said, yeah, you do. You've got it inside. Yeah, I know. I said, you just have to be creative. Yeah, I know, but I don't know how to be creative. So we will have some discussions here. But in bringing us all back to this, I think that was the reason that I chose this. Between those two athletes, what do I need to build a better warrior? I think most of it's already here, but I just have to acknowledge it, I guess.
I'm sort of formulating my thoughts, and it's all coming at me in different directions, and I think that my insight that's coming into me is this sense that the universe, or whatever it is just trying to get me to see my own dream and to wake me up, as it were. I once saw an enlightened guy, and he said, you see that exit sign over there? All it's doing is begging you to wake up and see the reality that you are, the truth of what you really are. So when I was looking at my purpose, it was just amazing. It was obvious that if I just opened the book at a random page, the answer was there. It was just there. And it's just this constant turning the pages. And the only time it didn't work was when I didn't trust, when I was in this limited belief about what this world is. And it reminds me of, there's a particular photo reading trainer in England, and he was teaching somebody photo reading who was actually Saudi Arabian or something, and he was with another trainer who's not a photo reading trainer. And the Saudi Arabian just couldn't understand what the hell was going on. So he was photo reading this book, or trying to, and he said, I'm trying to ask a question, and the photo reading trainer opened the book at random in Saudi Arabian and pointed at a sentence on the page and showed it to the guy, and that was the answer to the guy's question. Of course, the trainer, the photo reading trainer, did not understand the language, and that was the answer to the question. And does that make sense? And to think that the world is manifested is like this is astonishing. And the other trainer there said, don't you ever do that again, because it freaked him out. So, can you imagine? So it's like the world is, wherever I look, the answers to it, as all I have to do is pose a question and the answer comes flooding in, the answers are everywhere. And that's why I've been thinking recently about relooking again at the Celestine prophecy, where it's, you know, when I'm in a particular state, I can go into a restaurant and I meet somebody and they have the answer for me. You know, it's all the same thing. You know, we're all connected. I pose a question, the answer appears, and it's everywhere. And I even remember walking around a lake at home, and I think I walked past a squashed bottle, and it had some word on the front of it, and it was something like wake up or something like that. And it's like, wow, the answers are everywhere just to get me to realize my vision and to live life to the full. So I hope that makes sense. I'm still sort of reeling from it and trying to pull it all together, but it's been very profound doing that syntopic reading.
I love syntopic read. I think it is the apex of the course. In my class, I spend most of the morning of the third day and most of the afternoon, and to great advantage, I believe, because it's good for a project, for developing a project. It's good for developing a speech. I had one professor who was in a publish or perish situation. His subject was Euripides, and he was about to lose his job at the University of Maryland because he hadn't published. And in the class, he came up with the table of contents for his book. And the thesis statement was how Euripides has ideas that are germane to our lives today. And he wasn't fired. He maintained his job and published his book. I love it. I love syntopic read because I find that it has a very broad reach, that you could walk to any bookshelf and choose a book, and to another bookshelf and choose another book, and another, and you could put them down and they would find their way to each other. Nature has a way of conjoining, and that's, it's integral, it is congruent. And our minds, I believe, not only want to make patterns, but they want to put things together. They want to build concepts. So this offers an opportunity for that if we are artists enough to do it. And the other thing that I love is that what rises out of the process is creativity. It is, what you do is unique. No one else has ever put it together exactly the way that you will on the page. And if you want to do any kind of project and put your own stamp on it, it is when you come up to a conclusion. What do I recommend? Out of reading all of these texts, then what? I agree with this and this and this source, but in the end, I would do it such and such a way. And at that moment, you are the artist. You have lifted above those texts that you used as handholds, and you put your foot in, and you said, this is what I see. And then again, you put your foot in. Ah, from here the view is this. And suddenly you have this marvelous creation under your hands, under your pen. And the last thing is that this is an idea that just came to me at the table, and that is, if you do each book as a single mind map and you keep a notebook,
think that if you wanted to do a project, that you could take out the ones that match your project and your purpose, and you could put them around in a circle. And when you finish that, put the whole thing back into the book and create another project and use some of the same and some different. But then your initial love of a particular work is not lost with one project, but it is exponential in your life.
There's a postural opening that we suggest anytime you sit in front of a book. You don't want to be hunched over like this and leaning on, especially on your left side, where you're into a lot of auditory. You want to generally be somewhat upright, shoulders back. Stand up for a moment and try this out and get a feeling for it. As you stand here, just the way you are, notice the energy across the center of your chest. Now gently pull your arms just a few inches away from the body and turn your palms forward. Okay? Pull your arms away and turn your palms forward and feel the energy difference in your chest. Can you feel that? Okay, put your arms back. Feel the shift. Again, turn your palms out. There's an opening of the energy across the midline of the body. We want this heart center open. We want this Dantian Hara, this center of your power, to be open to the material that you're taking in. Okay? Good. Have a seat. Now, energy clearing is a fairly simple technique. I'm having you sit so that you can watch this for a sec. There are places, what is the frontalis what?
The frontal eminences.
Frontal eminences. Feel your skull in the front here, your forehead where it kind of squares out. The frontal eminences. You feel it kind of squares out there? Just slightly above there, take 3 fingers on each hand and hold it there. These are special points that are very helpful in order to do energy clearing. Emotional stress release, right? ESR? Emotional stress release. Now, when you do this on somebody, you can hold those 2 points on somebody else. When you do it on your own, you can hold those points with your thumb and index and middle finger. Hold those 2 points. Your other hand, kind of like this, shaped like this, and pointed at your navel center, your dantian, as a way of grounding the energy. Now, what I want you to do, so that we don't have to all hold our arms up for the whole time, is turn toward your table, rest your head on the heel of your hands, put that on your cheekbones, and then gently rest your fingers on those 2 points. So you can rest yourself like that. Now what I'd like you to do as you do this is think about your skill as a photo reader. Make a statement to yourself of what you think of yourself as a photo reader. Now, bring in any negative that you have about yourself as a photo reader, any negative at all. And now let that go. Think about your purpose for being here as a photo reader. And envision yourself at the level of capability that you are going to achieve now. See what that looks like. Feel what that feels like. Feel that shift inside of you. Anybody feel a change in your fingertips? Feeling the energy at your fingertips? Okay, good. That's it. It's an emotional clearing technique. Now we're going to do it at another level. Chris Payne is here from England. He's going to guide us tomorrow night in a technique that will dissolve any negative emotions that you may have. Because what we want to find is the highest level of self-appreciation that is possible for you in your life. And his technique of effort-free life will really help you to do that. Show you an additional way to do this. It really opens it up for you. You're going to find negative emotions just blasting out of there, draining out. Right, Chris? What else? Anything else I should say?
The other thing is that, Tracy, looking at your empowering beliefs around poetry, like being a genius poetry reader, getting into the state of great accent, really how we talk about before the end of Wednesday.
Excellent. So by the end of the day, you're definitely going to feel that power opening up. Now, there is a time when all of us just get really stuck in that negative space, don't we? Could we pull this up? And we're going to be working on this particular one, playing with this a little bit later in the course as well. The tap point is right here where you would do a karate chop. Thank you. And what I want you to do is take 3 or 4 fingers and tap right here. Okay, tap right here. And whatever negative internal dialogue you have ever had about yourself as a reader, as a photo reader, or anything else, what you do is you say, even though I tanked on the Nelson-Denny test today, I thoroughly and completely accept myself. Now you fill in your own internal dialogue, but do it 3 times. Even though got it? Anytime over the next 4 days, a negative word comes out of your mouth, your job is to notice the person in front of you who's going like this, okay? And all you're doing is just encouraging them to say, even though, okay? So any negative statement that comes out of your mouth, or if a negative statement comes out of anybody else's mouth over the next 4 days, your job as their support mechanism is to go like this and say, even though, and let them run it on their own, okay? Just have them do it 3 times. So they say, man, I just can't get this super reading thing. Even though I believe I can't get this super reading thing, I thoroughly and completely accept myself. Even though I don't think I can super read, I thoroughly and completely accept it. Do you get it? So if you have one come out of your mouth, do it. If you hear it coming out of anybody else's mouth, just encourage them. Does it change their outer world? It might, but how do we know? Until they go to their next book and start super reading, right?